Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your TWitWoW monthly Q&A, and this is the 8th edition of said monthly Q&As. And let me tell you guys, this month is much better. We're in a much better position. Last month, you guys gave us 26 questions, and we were feeling kind of underwhelmed. We were hoping for a little bit more. Our goal is to kind of keep it in the 40 to 60 range, and this month we landed right in that range. We have, I believe, if I remember the way I counted, 42 questions this month. John, what do you think?
Brother, I am so excited because, originally you and I were kind of thinking, it could be an underwhelming one. And then right at the buzzer, baby, a lot of people came pouring in with questions, really pushing up our total amount, really. So 42 questions is not bad at all. I'm really excited to dig into these. Should be a fun Q&A.
Yeah, let me tell you guys, we actually had 17 questions come in today, literally on the Friday of the Q&A. We had 17 questions coming in from, I believe, 7 different people. So quite a variety, and all of them pretty much coming in at the last minute. We had a few, and you know what? Since we're already talking about these questions, let's just get right into it, guys. We have a subscriber by the name of David Finara, and he submits his questions via YouTube personal message, and because of that, I didn't know that he submitted questions for last month. So what we're going to do to make up for missing his questions last month, we're going to answer both the questions that he asked last month and the questions that he asked this month for a grand total of 4 questions, which is above the cap. But because we missed out on a couple, we're going to kind of make up to it, David, by answering all of the questions, including the ones that we missed. So, John, are you ready to get going?
Let's do it.
Question number 1 from David, or again, David. You're going to have to correct me on your pronunciation of your first name. Finara, what is your favorite and least favorite ice cream flavor? And John, I'm going to let you start this one out, brother.
I'd say my least favorite would probably be anything cherry-based. Just kind of thinking about it off the top of my head, I've never really cared for that. Favorite, though, that's where it gets a bit tricky, because I've especially tried some newer ice creams recently that are really good. But going a more classical route, I love chocolate chip mint, and I love cookie dough. So I'd say those two are my favorite. Either that, or if you just wanted to go more plain flavor, I love sherbet. That's also really good. So what about you, brother?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, as my favorite ice cream flavor really does kind of vary with time, but as of late, I gotta say there is this, it's like a triple brownie extreme. I don't know. It's a Friendly's brand ice cream flavor, and it's got little chunks of brownies in it, and it's delicious. So if you had to ask me right now, I would say it was that. But for the longest time, I would have said chocolate marshmallow was my favorite, and I still enjoy that, but I think I might have not enough variety, and I literally was only, whenever I would eat ice cream, it would be just chocolate marshmallow for years. Like, that's how long we're talking, and I just kind of got sick of it. So even though, like, if I have to, I'd still probably enjoy it, but I've kind of fallen out of favor with it just because I overdosed on it almost. But yeah, right now I'm into the chocolate with the little brownie chunks in it. Least favorite ice cream, probably anything with little fruit bits in it. I'm not a big fan of the little. I don't want to crunch on my ice cream, so little tiny fruit bits in ice cream doesn't do anything for me. I don't like any kind of ice cream with little nut pieces in it either. So, yeah, really fruit flavored ice cream in general. And it's funny, John, because you mentioned sherbet. I actually love sherbet, but I don't like fruit flavored ice cream. So how's that for irony?
Yeah, because I've known about you for a while. Like, one of your defining food characteristics that we've talked about at length is like your I wouldn't say disdain, but just really dislike for fruit. And yeah, I can see why you wouldn't like fruit bits, but yeah, I'm glad you like sherbet because it just brings people together. And however, the thing with me with sherbet is I just like sherbet throughout. I hate when they mix it with vanilla. I just want a pure sherbet experience. So even that has qualifiers to it for me. So
yeah, I love sherbet, especially orange flavored sherbet. Orange creamsicle sherbet is the best. It's awesome. Yes. And you know what? I can't even say that's necessarily my favorite because my favorite flavor sherbet is probably just rainbow colored sherbet. It's great.
I think I've had that. Yeah, that wasn't bad. I had that one time. I'm like, that's really good. But dude, as a kid, there was nothing like getting a nice big dish of just pure orange sherbet. So good. And I remember, my first experience with that when I was even younger was those Flintstones push pops. I used to love those.
Dude, we're bonding through Q&A because literally when I was very, very young, like probably too young to actually form memories, but I somehow still remember this. My mom used to take me on walks, and we would each take a Flintstones push pop with us, and we would kind of lick it and eat it. And by the time we finished licking and eating our push pops, that would be when we turned around to come home, and we would walk home just holding these empty push pops.
Right. So like good.
That was like my probably one of the first memories that I actually have that actually happened. Because, like, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the memories that you think you have from when you were very, very young, like pre-5 years old child, your mind just made those up. But I've had it confirmed by multiple people in my family that I used to go on walks with my mom with Flintstone push pops. So that's an actual memory I have that my brain didn't just make up on me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty adequate answer for our first question. Let's move on to question number 2, also from Mr. Fanara. I'm going to stop butchering your first name until you correct me on it. Do you know where King Cuerno and Nightclaw are? They were 2 of my favorites from the temple. And you know what? I think as far as kayfabe goes, King Cuerno is dead. So there's that. And I think Nightclaw might have just kind of disappeared into the night. It's in his name after all. But as far as real life goes, I believe Cuerno is just kind of being held back for the whole he's dead storyline, but he should be around this season eventually. And Nightclaw, I know for a fact, had visa issues. So there are those answers. John, do you have anything you want to add that you maybe know that I didn't mention?
No, you covered it perfectly, brother. We can move on.
Okay. Well, then let's get to our second question asker, Mr. Rotten Butter on YouTube. And Rotten Butter says, let's say both of you were to meet an omniscient being and were each allowed to ask a single question. What would you ask? And note, the answer will be 100% truthful, but it will only be a single sentence long, so you can't expect much elaboration.
So what would you ask?
No, you're going first. I answered the last question.
All right, fair enough. So it's just this omniscient being. I get to ask it one question. Totally truthful answer, but it's very succinct.
Yeah.
You know what? I'd be a douche. And I would just simply ask, how does it feel to know everything? Rather than pull from that knowledge, I would want the intimate experience of this being knowing all that knowledge. And I could just imagine them saying, pretty good. So, yeah.
Oh, so you're not even trying to gain anything out of it. You're just being like, I don't even know, like a dick, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well, I would attempt to use this opportunity to make myself set in the future financially because I don't have any concerns about the meaning of life. I know life is meaningless. I don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. So my single question would be, what stock can I invest in right now that will make me the most amount of money possible by the time I reach 30?
Pretty much pulling a Biff from Back to the Future, but using God to do it. Sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice, dude. Nice.
That was the first question from Rotten Butter, who submitted 3. Second question is specifically for Johnny Scumbag. And John, I'm really curious if you can pull this off. He asked Johnny Scumbag to reenact the Bill Harper speech from Mr. Robot. And he also added that he said, feel free to replace Bill with anyone in particular that you feel a discreet hatred for.
Ooh. Here's the thing. I'm willing to do this, but I need to see the speech before me to read it. Do you have it on hand that you could just copy and paste me in this chat here? Or does anybody have a means? Oh
God! You know what? We're gonna take a little tiny break. Let's see. Oh man, I really want to see if I can find a transcript on this because this is amazing, guys. I googled Bill Harper speech, Mr. Robot, and sadly, I don't think I'm gonna find it. So maybe like I don't know, maybe just like cut a really angry promo on somebody you hate that doesn't just involve saying you failed over and over again. Because from what I remember, he just dressed Bill down and like convinced him, like, Bill, you know, you're worthless. Nobody cares about you. If you were to die tomorrow, no one would show up at your funeral, that kind of stuff. So maybe just dress someone down really well.
Oh, that was when he told him like about like, oh, your only friend is like your cat pretty much. And just,
yeah.
Okay. You know what? I don't need a transcript because now I know what speech you're talking about. Because to be honest, I was just trying to find my footing a little bit. Okay, let me see. And you know what? This couldn't have come at a better time because I was really angry after the visit. I had a lot of stuff working through. So I've got like a lot of okay. Zack Ryder. You know.
Oh yes.
You know, Zach, I saw your interview with Michael Cole recently, and you tried to get a sea full of tears by mentioning how you overcame cancer. Well, to be perfectly honest, Zach, you overcoming cancer was humanity's loss because we still have to watch your fucking shitty matches. The fact is, Zach, I really don't give a shit that you survived chemo, that your hair grew back, and that you were able to have a normal life. Because the fact is, you chose the worst profession possible, professional wrestling, because you suck at it so fucking much. You are never going to be a world champion, and this idea that you feel like you got yourself over with your internet show, clearly you've never known what the word charity is. You're a fucking disgrace to the business. You're a disgrace to your family and to those doctors that operated on you to give you this chance. I sincerely hope they get barred from practicing medicine because this is a cosmic abortion of justice, the idea that you're allowed to breathe the same air as me. I would tell you to never try, but clearly you're too stupid to adhere to that advice, so maybe here's some advice. Why don't you do a fucking broski boot off a cliff, fall all the way down and have the sharpest rock hit your spine, so then at least maybe you could be like Christopher Reeves, get a few magazine covers and just pump out that last bit of sympathy that's only made your career possible until now. You make me sick. Go die in a fire. Love me.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was probably the most ruthless I've ever been to anyone, and the even more disturbing thing is I don't feel bad about it. That probably lends itself to some issues, but there you go, Rotten Butter. I hope you enjoyed that.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. I won't get them assessed, though. So, Rotten Butter, I hope you enjoyed that.
Probably. Okay, I can deal with that.
All right, next question.
All right, well, now that you've effectively eviscerated Zack Ryder and possibly literally forced him to commit suicide, let's move on. Up next, we have our third and final question from Rotten Butter. So have you guys seen any good movies or TV shows lately? Allow me to go first on this one, John. Let's see. Do we start a year or so ago so that we can talk about that kind of recent stuff, or are we just talking about like within the last couple weeks? Because if we're going back a little further, TV show-wise, we've got to talk about Gravity Falls. Rick and Morty is always just freaking incredible. We just recently started watching through Voltron, the Galaxy's Defender, I think it's called. The Netflix Voltron, that's amazing. Let's see, what else? Black Mirror is one that I know John has watched all of, and I've watched 1 or 2 episodes of. As far as movies go, we just recently watched a movie called Thank You for Smoking. That's from, I think, like 2007, and that movie was really way ahead of its time. If that movie would have come out in 2017, it would have been a ridiculous #1 box office hit. And really, I think that really would have been like perfect tone for today's kind of culture and atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. John, do you want to add any more to what I've been saying here? Because I feel like there's a lot.
Well, I know like some of the answers I give, I know you and I haven't watched together, but me and the family, we recently got done American Crime Story. That's really good. You know, it's funny. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did because it had a lot of the same people behind American Horror Story. And while I do like that, you know, you figure the OJ trial, like you hear that and it's like, oh, it's so played out. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned a lot about the trial that I didn't even know like happened. So it was actually very informative. Sneaky Pete, from Amazon. That's another one I finished with the family, season 1. Bryan Cranston actually was the executive producer of that, and funny story about that, his nickname in school was Sneaky Pete, so I guess this is like one of the passion projects that he had. So that was a really good show. It's about a con man, and yeah, that was really enjoyable. Let me think, what else? As far as movies go, I don't really know. I know you and I like watch a lot. Let me think about a movie we watched recently besides Thank You for Smoking, because that really was so good.
That was a great freaking movie. I love that, like, even throughout this whole movie, you're rooting for this, like, supposed scumbag because he's basically selling death in a box. But at the same time, you're rooting for him because he stands for freedom of choice. And that's the most important thing above all else.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was so good. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt season 2, which is actually significantly better in my mind than season 1, and the way it ended, I'm actually excited for the 3rd season. Watched Finding Dory while my family was here. Man, Ellen, you really wanted that check, huh? That movie wasn't too good to me.
Was it that bad? Wow.
I really didn't enjoy it, to be honest. In fact, I actually got annoyed, but I was grateful that it was on because it killed time. Because otherwise people, I think, would just be twiddling their thumbs. So yeah, that wasn't bad, but whatever. Let me think here. Yeah, any more that you've got that you'd want to bring to the table?
Let's see. What was the movie that we just watched? You know what? It might not have been a movie. Never mind. Yeah, I feel like the majority of the content that we watch isn't like professionally made movies and TV shows. It's mostly YouTube content, honestly.
Right.
So I would say, and really, we watch more TV shows than movies. We've been wanting to watch Unbreakable and Split because Split is like a sequel, like a spiritual successor and sort of an in-universe sequel to Unbreakable. I think we even talked about that in our last Q&A to show you how far behind we are in our watch list. What other movies just recently came? I want to watch Get Out now. That's been getting advertised on Raw and stuff.
Yes.
That movie looks amazing. But yeah, man, I can't really think of any other movies. I mean, if we're talking like just random shit, like yesterday I sat in front of my new desktop amazing like 1080p monitor and watched Jurassic World in HD for the first time. So
nice.
and honestly, it doesn't even hold up. Like, that movie came out last year and already it's lamer than I thought it was.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. There's a lot of really corny dialogue in that, man. It's so like, I wish it was better, because like, even when it first came out, just being able to see the Indominus Rex for the first time was enough to make me be like, yes, this is everything I wanted from a Jurassic World movie. But then, like, when you realize that that's really, like, the only thing this movie has to offer is this cool new-looking dinosaur, you kind of slowly begin to realize that all of these lines in the movie about how people are bored with dinosaurs, they've been seeing them for too long now, they need something newer and scarier and bigger, not only applies to the kayfabe people in the movie, but it applies to people in real life too, because the only reason people cared about Jurassic World was because, oh my god, there's a hybrid dinosaur in it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
The meta, though.
Exactly. But yeah, I can't think of anything else, man, so.
All right, and you know what? It's funny. I just saw Javaris Carter in chat said he wants to see the new Kong movie. When I hear, I don't even pay attention to the TV most of the time, but when I hear the ads playing for that movie, I have this weird thought that it's like some kind of a strange hybrid between like what's a recent Samuel L. Jackson movie that he was in? There was a movie that he was in recently, and what were you gonna say?
No, nothing. You keep going. You keep going.
There's another Samuel L. Jackson movie, and I always feel like it's like that, and then like halfway in it shifts, and they start talking about monkeys, and I'm like, oh, so this is like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And no, it's just a freaking King Kong movie all over again.
Right.
All right. Anyway, we should probably move on. First of 3 questions from Brandon Best, and this one is directed at you, John. He wants to know, in your opinion, if the technical wrestlers of today lack anything that made Benoit and Angle, etc., so great.
I actually really liked this question from Brandon Best. I know him and I talk about technical wrestling a bit because that's a style that he loves, and I grew up and still to this day love that shit and catch as can. and all that. No, I don't think they're missing anything. If anything, I think today's generation of technical wrestlers are better than they've ever been. And I think it's a beautiful thing because I think they have more exposure, for one, because as I always love to stress, WWE isn't the only game in town. And I feel like you look at a guy like Zack Sabre Jr., like, to me, he's an evolution of technical wrestling. Because before, I used to associate it with, just maybe a few suplexes and submissions. But you got these guys that could just make pure submission work their repertoire, and it's amazing to watch. Or just suplexes and maybe one or two submissions. It's funny the different types of technical wrestlers and workers we see. And, that's a funny thing, too, because I look at a guy, and I know his name's been coming up a lot, like Pete Dunne. I don't really care for Pete Dunne, and yet he works a style that I enjoy, right? But yet you look at a guy like Minoru Suzuki, who I've been watching a shit ton of lately, who's 48 fucking years old, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's brutal as hell. I fucking love it. So I think technical wrestling today is just as good, if not better, than in the Ruthless Aggression era, because we got faces, young and old, still putting out quality work and just showing us the beauty and the artistry of scientific wrestling. So absolutely not. I'm not going to be one of those member Benoit Angle guys, because, yeah, they were brilliant, no doubt about it. But I think if you're going to be, turning up your nose at the current crop and the crop that's still working, at this level, I think you're seriously missing out. So that's kind of what I fall with it.
I can dig that. To me, the big difference is not necessarily the technical side so much as it's the storytelling side. Because to me, when you look at Angle and Benoit, and even more recently Daniel Bryan, yes, they're extremely sound technically, but I think that what makes them a little like a step up from the guys that we're talking about now with the Dunn and Zack Sabre Jr. and Skrull and all that stuff is that they knew how to tell a deep, like a story with some depth to it in the ring. Like today, I feel like the stories that are told in the ring are pretty much one note, I'm the bad guy, boo me,
Right. Yeah, so, absolutely.
I definitely see where you're coming from, though.
Definitely. So what's our next question from Brandon Best?
Our next question from Brandon Best is directed at me. And, I wasn't really sure how to answer this one. He said, how many times would bro, like the word bro, be said in a conversation between Matt Riddle, Mojo Rawley, and Vince Russo? And, how long does this conversation go on for? Because if this is like a 3-sentence exchange, like, oh, hey, bro, how you doing? Oh, yeah, thanks, bro. I'm doing well, bro. How about you, bro? Like that kind of thing. And then they all leave, I'd say like 7. But if we're talking about an actual conversation where like they get to know each other and they truly, sink into each other's personalities and actually have a conversation, I'm going to say somewhere along the lines of like, it's over 9,000!
Dude, I'm visualizing that scenario. That's my personal hell. And I used to think my personal hell was living in a town of Enzo Amores where they constantly say, how you doing to each other. Just that kind of shit, whether it's just like one word like bro or just a phrase like how you doing ad nauseum, just, oh my God, I get insane just thinking about it. So how many times did they say it? Too many. That's my answer to that question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Brandon's third question is, again, directed at you, John. What is your opinion on TST? And TST, for those of you who don't know, is the Satanic Temple, which is a strand of Satanism, which is apparently the strand of Satanism that Brandon adheres to. So what do you think, John?
Okay, now I am going to be completely forthcoming with our audience because, I guess this is a part of me that doesn't feel like being an asshole. I didn't have time to research this prior, so what I'm going to do is I pulled up the Satanic Temple, the Wikipedia page. I got to the subsection tenets. Now, there are at least, 7 tenets here, and I'm going to read them and then just kind of give a live reaction of sorts. So here's pretty much what Brandon follows here. 1 should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. Makes sense to me. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. Again, makes sense to me. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Believe me, as a person with CP, I respect that far more than you might realize. The freedom of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. Oh, absolutely. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego your own. Completely agree. Beliefs should conform to our best scientific understanding of the world. We should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit our beliefs. Somebody tell the current administration that. People are fallible. If we make a mistake, we should do our best to rectify it and resolve any harm that may have been caused. Every tenet is a guiding principle to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. Well, Brandon, I can tell you from this live reaction here, because the last time we had Q&A, you asked about Anton Levy and my opinion of him. I thought he was a scumbag, and I'm glad he's dead. So, but this seems a lot more agreeable to me. I mean, whether you call it Satanic Temple or atheism, doesn't really matter what umbrella you put under these values. I think these are values we can all follow. I wish more people did follow these values, and if following it through Satanism works for you, more power to you, but I find these, really agreeable, nothing really objectionable. And so, yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me.
Okay. Now, I guess we can move on, right?
Absolutely.
All right, we have 3 questions from Ace the Skylord. First one is directed at both of us. I like this one, actually. This, I believe, is part of the title for this episode. Yeah, it is. So, if you could pull a character from a comic book movie, put them in Lucha Underground, and have them feud with someone, who would it be, and who would they feud with? And he also wanted to add that we're going to suspend our disbelief, and yes, this random comic book character would have to have the requisite wrestling skills in order to actually wrestle. So let's just assume that all comic book characters have at least a nominal understanding of how pro wrestling works and have the ability to do it.
Oh, I'm very curious who you're picking for this, so who you got?
Well, since we're talking about characters and not people, my choice would be Moon Knight. I don't know if you guys are at all familiar with the Moon Knight character, but he is basically Marvel's Batman, except he is legitimately mentally ill. He is schizophrenic, and sometimes you're not really sure if he's really doing things for the best or not. And my opponent for Moon Knight would be Phoenix, because I feel like Phoenix is sort of that true blue, lawful good, shining ray of light. He's the white knight of the temple, and like I said, Moon Knight is similar to the Batman, who we consider the Dark Knight. So Moon Knight would be, to me, perfect. And if you're going to turn anyone babyface, why not do it with the mentally ill guy who has the best intentions most of the time?
I actually really like that. That's very clever. Unfortunately, my answer's not going to pack as much of a punch, and I'm not going to lie. Jarveris actually spoiled my original answer because he said Deadpool versus Matanza. That's what I was going to go with, because I find the idea of Deadpool in the temple to be just rich with possibility, given his breaking the fourth wall and just who he is. So I'll go with one of my favorites as like an alternate. I'd love to see Wolverine in the temple. Classic 90s Wolverine, before Hugh Jackman. Not that I have a problem with him, but, I'm just going with my childhood. And I'd love to see Wolverine versus Matanza simply for the visuals, because I could even visualize, like, Wolverine goes for the kill, the Antimanium claws, like, right in the throat, and Matanza catches him by the claws and he bends them. And I just could see, like, such crazy visuals of Matanza's power and Wolverine's regenerative factor. And just, yeah, I think it'd be an amazing match. And I just love to see him and his fucking attitude problem all in the temple. So since I don't want to do Deadpool, since Jarveris, had that already, Wolverine's my alternate. I think he'd kick ass.
The reason that I didn't go with Immortals, well, I kind of just gave my answer away, but the reason I didn't go with Wolverine or Deadpool is because they're basically immortal. Like,
right.
There are no real stakes when a guy can't die.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Still, though, I just want to have fun with it and just go crazy with it, and those two guys kind of personify that for me, so.
Yeah. All right, well, there's the first... Yeah, Brandon, you missed our answering of your questions. Scroll back in the video and find it.
I was even getting ready to tell him that in all caps, so he knows that I'm serious. Like, yeah, your answers. So, yeah, but he'll go back and hear them.
Yeah, second question here from Ace the Skylord, directed at Johnny Scumbag. This is our second Johnny Scumbag question. You have a choice, John. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Become a Kalisto mark, a hardcore Kalisto mark, or you can become a hardcore Ash Ketchum mark. And we would like an explanation on your choice, and more specifically, we would also like an explanation on why you didn't choose what you didn't choose.
Okay. I would be a hardcore Kalisto mark, and the reason I wouldn't be an Ash Ketchum mark, to answer that half first, is because when I'm a mark for somebody, I actually like to have something to show for it. So maybe when Ash wins a fucking championship, maybe then he'll have people be marks for him. At least
Who won the
Kalisto...
Orange League, okay?
It doesn't count! At least Kalisto won 2 United States championships at the expense of Alberto Del Bitchbag, of all people, making it extra delicious. So even then, just for that reason alone, it's kind of like Kalisto's oasis away from my hate, because I respect him for that. Meanwhile, Ash is just like, oh, well, I didn't win, but at least I learned the value of friendship. How much can the value of friendship take you? Shut the fuck up and do something. So yeah. Fuck Ash Ketchum. I will gladly be a Kalisto mark, even putting up with all of this Lucha bullshit. Look, if I want to chant Lucha, you know where I do it? Lucha Underground, where real Lucha is.
Goddamn right. Goddamn right.
Not your fucking diet-ass Lucha, you piece of shit. I hate them both personally. But you know what, Ace? You put my back against the wall. So I'll be a Kalisto fan, sure. So you know what? I'll lead him to Lucha Underground so Matanza can devour him and then emancipate me from this bullshit. Fuck Ash Ketchum. So, yeah, that's my answer.
All right. Okay, so up next, we had another question from Ace the Skylord, third of 3. And this is also for both of us. He kind of spent a lot of time sort of harassing us about how Roman Reigns was going to win the 2017 Royal Rumble, even though all odds said, no, there's no way. He's in a championship match. That can't happen. And then he nearly did it anyway. He was literally the runner-up this year. So Ace the Skylord's question for us is, what does that near Rumble win say about the extent to which Vince McMahon is willing to go to turn Roman Reigns into John Cena 2.0?
Okay, I'll go first on this. And honestly, like, when I saw this question originally from Ace, here's how I'm going to answer it. I don't think it says anything, at least if we were to take this incident by itself, I don't think it says anything about Vince wanting to turn Roman into John Cena 2.0, as much as it says, like, Vince, even if he doesn't want to acknowledge it in a way that would explicitly demonstrate, guys, I was wrong, like, he's starting to recognize, you know what, crowds aren't going to like Roman, let's at least do something good with this, and let's make another guy that's really established that might get fans' ire that way, because, oh, Randy Orton doesn't need this, let's get Randy Orton that pop, so people can overlook, oh, wait, Orton's already like a multi-time world champion. He doesn't need another big-time Mania match. So, if anything, I feel like they use Roman as fodder because they're finally starting to get an understanding, wow, he really is loathed, isn't he? So, that's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if Randy Orton would have won the Royal Rumble without Roman Reigns being the alternative, I don't think people would have liked it at all. But the fact that Roman was the alternative, people got like... and including you and I, like, we got worked just as much as everyone else. Like, we were happy about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, like, just to put this out there, I know you and I don't have a problem with Randy Orton, but it doesn't change the fact that a lot of people, even if they were liking Randy Orton during this current run, they probably look at this decision with some kind of confusion. Like, why is he getting this spot? Especially, again, because you know where my chips were. I thought they were building Sammy this year, Sammy and Strowman. I thought was going to be the big Rumble story. That didn't even come close. So, yeah, Roman, to me, I feel like was just kind of a buffer. So, but yeah, Ace, you really almost gave us a heart attack there. Never do that again. Ever. So, there you go.
Absolutely. All right. Let's, I think, can we move on? Did I answer this question?
I feel like, yeah, you...
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, I really didn't. So what does it say about, Vince McMahon is a very stubborn person. He really kind of has things his way. And by the way, I don't know if you guys heard this, but Ryback, I mean, I know some people know already that Ryback has a podcast, but I was actually listening to his podcast the other day, and he pretty much came out and said that Triple H pretty much explicitly said either to him or just out loud that he could hear him that the WWE is never going to create another John Cena again, that they're never going to create one of those stars again, and that they're going to actually make an effort to make sure that nobody reaches that level again. So I don't think Roman is necessarily going to reach the John Cena point. And even if he had the requisite actual talent to reach that point, I don't think WWE would allow him to because of that quote, unless Triple H changed his mind since then. But really, if you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world. Every time the WWE makes somebody who transcends the business, their transcending the business is the worst thing that could have happened to WWE because then they leave.
Right. Okay, because I was gonna get,
Yeah, I honestly think that the 50-50 booking and the constant inability to consistently push talent who deserves to be pushed, I don't really know how accidental or incompetent that is. That might be perfectly intentional. That might be by design.
Right.
That might be Vince just being like, well, if we push this guy, he's going to get over and he's going to turn into a megastar and he's going to leave. So we have to do the push-pull and give him a little bit, but then pull him back and bury him and then give him a little bit more and then bury him again. Like, that's what they've been doing with Cesaro for the last few years. So,
yeah, really?
Really, no, seriously. And Bray Wyatt is another one. Like, I'm shocked that Bray Wyatt is getting the kind of light put on him right now that he is. But I mean, if you think about it, I don't even know if he is kind of the kind of guy that could go on to be a movie star because of his look, because he is overweight, because he does have the big beard, he is unkempt, he doesn't have sort of the corporate look that you would want in a guy who would transcend the business and go to movies or whatever. Now, granted, he could be a great horror movie star, but I don't think the WWE is really worried about guys doing that.
Right.
So yeah, that's my take. Up next, though, we have 3 questions from Cliff Amal. Cliff, who also donated to the Patreon for a review of an old 90s WWE show in March. Guys, speaking of Patreon, make sure to really consider donating. We are currently at $49, and if we hit 80 by the end of February, if we actually hit that $80 mark on Patreon, we will be live reacting to every episode of SmackDown Live in March, which also happens to be the final 4 episodes of SmackDown leading up to WrestleMania. So if you want us to live react to the 4 episodes of SmackDown Live leading up to WrestleMania, get us up to that $80 mark on Patreon before February 28th, or really before March 1st. And that'll be kind of how you unlock that achievement. So now, let's move on to Cliff's questions. First off, who in the history of the show's existence is the best written character in Lucha Underground? And I'll take this one, and I'm going to go a little bit off kilter here. In my opinion, the best written character in Lucha Underground is actually Katrina.
Nice, dude. Nice.
Because if you think about it, Katrina, when she first showed up, all we saw was, wow, that's a really hot lady there with that big scary man. And over time, we discovered that she is a 200-plus-year-old witch/ghost who is in possession of an immortality-granting amulet, who is in love with the physical manifestation of life itself, but is trapped in a relationship with the physical manifestation of death itself. If that isn't a well-written character, I don't know what is.
And the beauty of Lucha Underground is, like, anybody could hear that stream of thought just now, and they might feel, like, lost or confused or be like, wow, that sounds ridiculous. But yet when you see its execution, it just works on every level.
Yep.
You know what? Because you know what, I'm not gonna do Johnny Mundo for this one because I actually feel like his writing's been at its best this season. I've really loved how they've written him this season, but overall for 3 seasons, it's Puma, because to me, like, I feel like he kind of fulfills in the beginning, like that classic hero arc, and yet like that's not even boring or trite or antiquated. Like they make it feel fresh. You know, he's got a mentor, wins the gold, loses the mentor, loses the gold, and now like you see like he's going down this darker path with Vampiro and everything. Now if he really is doing that whole hero's arc like I believe he's doing, sooner or later like he'll get that redemption, he'll find himself again, he'll be whole again, all that good stuff. But yeah, I think his writing as a character, just, this guy that I found, and he's the last of his tribe, and then, becomes world champion, and then does all this stuff, and now, like, joining with Vampiro. He's a guy that you'd think you'd get tired of in any other setting, but Lucha Underground, combined with the fact that Ricochet is just a brilliant performer as Prince Puma, has really just kept the character not only fresh, but engaging for 3 seasons now. So I definitely say Prince Puma. I very much enjoyed his whole show-long arc thus far as a character. So that's my pick.
That is definitely agree. I love Prince Puma, and you're absolutely right. He's had a great story arc. And I think what I love about him that's so opposite Katrina is that his story is really believable, because, like, the whole thing is, like, he got, he was fighting for his life in the streets. He got scouted out by Conan, or actually by Ray. Ray handed him off to Conan to be a manager and a mentor figure. And then, the whole thing with season 1 where we find out, like, this dude's an incredible fighter. He ends up winning the title. He has to, defend the title a bunch as champion, only to run into death itself. Like, that's the perfect way to kind of end the first arc of a character's story.
Right.
So, yeah, I definitely agree. Puma's great.
All right, what do we got next?
Up next, we have our second question from Cliff Hamal. Is there a time you can remember when you could pinpoint someone's career being over? I hate to say 2 Mondays ago when Emelina came out and said you're going to see the makeover of Emelina back into Emma, but that's the first thing that comes to mind, unfortunately.
God, I hope you're wrong, but you're probably right. They haven't known how to handle her on the main roster before. That's not going to freaking change. Send her back to NXT.
Cliff is making a point in chat. Titus O'Neil. And really, I'm not even going to say Titus O'Neil, because there are multiple times in his career where I felt like I was watching his career come to an end. The first of which was literally the first promo he ever cut in the WWE. You want to fight? Make it a fight. You want to win? Long dramatic pause. Make it a win. Goofy smile, acting as if that's what I really meant to say. Like, he's a complete joke. And then like the freaking, when he grabbed Vince McMahon and got suspended for 60 days for something that minor, that was like strike 2. And then the ridiculously bad promo that he botched like twice to start, talking about how Darren Young was holding him back, and then literally getting destroyed by Rusev and embarrassed in front of his own children. Like, that's 4 instances in one man's career that I can honestly say I feel like his career ended in front of me, and yet he's still employed.
Yeah, for me, and you know what? Normally, I don't like to take answers in chat, but that's actually a great one that comes to my mind. Jack Swagger, for sure. And the funny thing with Jack Swagger, and I've always said this, I've been like a fan of his, almost like a Mark, because again, I do love like that amateur style and that collegiate style, as well as the scientific stuff. When he first came on the scene in ECW, I liked what he brought to the brand. Again, the whole thing with Zeb Coulter, I fucking love that. I thought it had its finger on the pulse as far as the political and social climate. He came back with a new aggression, really seemed like, I'm going to take that spot kayfabe-wise. Zeb Coulter, Dutch man, tell you can't get a better mouthpiece than that. Everything was going well for him. And then he gets busted for pot. And I'm like, well, that's it. That's it. That to me was the last chance they were going to take on him being like a main event heel and being in that top card spot. And now what has he really done since then? Like, yeah, he had the feud with Rusev in the mid card, but he lost that. had the feud with Corbin on SmackDown, lost that, and now I think he's a part of the SmackDown brand, but I feel like we haven't seen him forever. So I don't know if he got released, if he's injured, what he's doing. But yeah, I was so excited about that push, and I was so into the character and the gimmick. Like, I was rooting for him at the Chamber he won, and then I was going to root for him against Del Rio because I just fucking hate Del Rio. And then he shot himself in the foot and never got a push like that again. And I'm just like, you know what? You screwed it up for yourself. So yeah, Jack Swagger would have to be my pick because you're talking about a guy that, like Jim Ross brought in, and they love those collegiate athletes. They love those NCAA champions. Swagger had those credentials, and he just could never do anything beyond that. I think they want so bad to get another Kurt Angle, and it just really hasn't come together for them. Chad Gable, maybe, but even now on the main roster, they're not really letting him be him, mic-wise. So I don't know, man. But yeah, Swagger definitely comes to mind for me for sure.
Yeah, man, Swagger is a rough case, but honestly, to me, Swagger's career should have been over when he concussed Dolph Ziggler on Ziggler's first title run.
Yeah, because then poor Ziggler had to suffer for it. Oh my God, I remember that too. Son of a bitch.
And Ziggler's career has never recovered since that point. Like, that was the last moment in Dolph Ziggler's career that I could honestly feel secure calling him a main event talent.
Yeah, goddamn. I liked Ziggler back then too. Not even liked. I was so happy he had the title. I'm like, yeah. And then Swagger
his
happened.
passion was the Cup of Legends.
Yeah.
And literally that same week, the next day at the SmackDown taping, he gets kicked in the head by Swagger, goes out with a concussion, and then ends up having to drop the title on the next pay-per-view to bitch bag.
Yeah. God, Swagger, you really do ruin everything.
Yeah. He's awful. Like, and the thing is, like, I can honestly say I don't even like Jake Hager the person. Like, I've seen the way he acts in like up down videos, and the dude is like an actual douchebag. I can't stand him. He's obnoxious. I've gotten to the point now that if he's ever in an up down video, I don't even want to watch it just because I can't stand his personality.
Right.
Let's see, what else as far as careers coming to an end and us being able to like witness it firsthand. I mean, this is a little bit more on the grim side, but the dude in TNA who DJ-Z did the moonsault onto and it messed up his neck.
Wasn't that
It's not Jesse Goddard's, it's someone else.
Jesse Sorensen or something?
Yeah, Sorensen. Jesse Sorensen, that dude. That I felt so bad for that guy because he was young too. Like, I think he was like 24, 25 years old when that happened, and now he's probably like 28, 29, maybe closing in on 30. And like, he's worked for WWE in a couple of matches on NXT as like a jobber, but like his career was on the rise at that point, and he has not recovered since then. And the worst part is, I'm pretty sure there were stories that TNA didn't even compensate him or pay for his medical bills.
I heard those same stories. I'm like, wow, scumbags, and not the good kind.
Another example when I thought I literally witnessed somebody's career come to an end was when Mike Bennett pile drove BJ Whitmer on the apron, and it was a botch, and it legit like screwed up BJ Whitmer's neck. Like, I didn't think Whitmer would ever wrestle again after that. Thankfully, I mean, depending on how you look at it, thankfully, because BJ Whitmer's still got a punchable face and I hate him, but I'm glad that that didn't end his career, you know?
You want to talk about things we don't want to say. I mean, I'm hoping this second injury with Hideo Itami, whenever he comes back, they don't feel tentative about pushing him, because that's another one I'm really scared about. And like, every time I talk about Hideo, I get so mad. And it's funny because I'm not even necessarily a mark for the guy. It's just, I respect him so much given everything that he's given to get here. And like, he's being pushed back by things that aren't even his own fault. And I just think that really makes me feel a certain way. So I'm hoping Hideo isn't another one, like you said with Emma, like that they're so good, but either because of creative mishandlings or just mishaps that are out of their control, it's just never going to come together for them.
Yeah. So then another example I wanted to bring up, the main roster debut of Adam Rose to me was the beginning and the end of his main roster and WWE career.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because to me, like, I know we've talked about this before, but just in case there are people who are here that haven't heard us talk about it before, we freaking loved Leo Kruger. And then when we found out that they were repackaging him, we were devastated. But then when we saw Adam Rose for the first time in NXT, we were like, oh, wow, this is actually awesome. I like him. The talent is really coming through here. Let's roll with this and give it a chance. And then every single week after his debut, they took something away from him that made us love him on the debut.
Yeah.
And by the time he got to the main roster, he was a complete abomination compared to what we saw on that original NXT debut that we fell in love with.
Dude, because what's the real guy's name that did like Leo Kruger and Adam? Like, what's his
Ray
name?
Ray LaPon.
You want to talk about Ray LaPon in general? Like, that guy was the personification to me of a missed opportunity, because I loved his first gimmick when he was the African King. Leo Kruger, we both adored it so much, dude. We came up with main event storylines for him, and you had that really cool idea where he would feud with animal-themed wrestlers. So he would go on this
animal-themed wrestlers. You want to talk about a missed opportunity? Let's get that dude in freaking Lucha Underground so we can have him feud with everyone that has an animal theme. Prince Puma, Marty the Moth, Phoenix. Like, there are so many animal-themed characters in Lucha Underground. Cobra Moon, like, it's unbelievable. There is an endless supply of material for a hunter gimmick who just takes the hunter part of the gimmick literally. Like, I know we have Cuerno, but he's like, he calls himself a hunter, but he's really just a wrestler who kind of acts like a hunter. If we have a guy in there that is a hunter that actually acts like a hunter, that takes the hunting part literally and actually goes after the animal-themed characters, like, oh, I'm going to hunt Puma today, and then he goes after Prince Puma, like, that has so much potential for story.
And then you mentioning Cuerno, it just makes me want to have Leo Kruger team up with Cuerno, find a third guy, and form a hunting troop, and just go after everybody.
Kill shot. Man. Kill shot. He's already a sniper.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh, my God. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
Do it. Do it.
Do it.
All right. So one more question from Cliff, because wasn't that just his second one?
Did you answer that question?
No, yeah.
You went with Titus. That's right. You went with Titus.
I went with Swagger and a few others. So, like, yeah, Swagger.
Okay. Third and final question from Cliff Amal. Do you think Paige has any chance of revitalizing her career and getting back to the same level of overness and sort of, the fact that she was really credible and stuff like that in 2014? And is there anyone else that you can think of who threw away a promising career due to being stupid or immature, a la Johnny Manziel in the NFL?
Here's my thing, and maybe this is just the optimist in me. I feel like everybody has a chance. It's just a matter of if it'll present itself to those people, and if WWE will actually care enough to take that chance on the person. Again, it is kind of a shame what happened with Paige, but to Cliff's own point, it was mainly due to her own ineptitude, so you can't really say much about it. And as far as other people being stupid, God, I feel like there are a few performers like on the tip of my tongue, but names aren't coming out. But they're out there because they're out there in every profession. Because with Muhammad Hassan wasn't his fault. That was WWE's fault, so not him. Yeah. God, who was? Nathan Jones, like, that was somebody that I feel like a lot of people were excited about, but apparently he couldn't hack the schedule, so he left. So really that was on him.
Well, and not only that, but he couldn't wrestle either. He was just garbage.
Right. What about you, bro? Well, first of all, what do you think about the Paige situation? Second of all, can you think of any names?
I mean, the Paige situation is so weird to me because, like, she was legitimately the most promising female prospect that we had seen probably ever when she first showed up in FCW, not even NXT, in FCW, because she was like 19 years old. Like, she was signed to WWE and she was like 19 or 20 years old. And it was ridiculous because she was in FCW and she had like a weird storyline where she didn't even speak, but she was getting associated with Seth Rollins, who was the FCW champion at the time. And she would randomly just like show him stuff on a laptop computer and he would be like, oh, and then she would just leave. Like, she would just close the laptop while he was looking at it and leave. And he'd be like, well, why are you leaving? I wanted to see more. And there was like this weird storyline with them, and that got dropped. And then she started teaming with Ivelisse when she was there, when she was Sofia Cortez. And they were like this rebellious diva duo who tried to take on like the established diva brass and prove that you don't have to conform in order to be cool and in order to be a champion. And that didn't really make it anywhere. I don't think Paige ever won the FCW Divas Championship or anything. And then next thing you know, we go to NXT. We shift our gears and we go to Full Sail and we do NXT, and Paige immediately gets pushed as the best female on the brand. Like it was her, Summer Rae, Emma, and Audrey Marie when she was still around. Like, this is all happening when Paige is still, like, not even 20 years old yet, you know? And then, like, there was a point when we were all convinced, like, when Paige turns 21, she's going to get called up. And it didn't happen. And then it ended up happening, like, the following post-WrestleMania Raw. And on her debut, she challenged for and won the Divas Championship. So, like, you want to talk about a woman who was legitimately being groomed for success. Good Lord.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we felt like, and we would even say on those TWitWows, you know, because we were really seeing NXT now become this developmental brand. Like, we felt like she was going to go down as one of the best women's wrestlers in WWE history because she had the pedigree.
And she easily could have, because they're like, that was the trajectory that she was on. But then, like, you know, I call it poor decision making, whatever, but I think that she really started to go downhill when she agreed to join the cast of Total Divas. That was when, like, the public perception of her went down, and she started kind of acting trashy, and she started to kind of, you know, and then like the Tough Enough thing where she was just really immature and petty and all that stuff, like, and then the Stone Cold Steve Austin thing where everyone hated her because she was like constantly moving her hair out of the way so you could see her boobs, and she was like all giggly like a schoolgirl with Austin and all that stuff. Like, just downgrade after downgrade after downgrade after downgrade. And then she's with Del Rio, and I don't have a problem with her being with Del Rio, but Del Rio is an actual scumbag for cheating on his wife to be with Paige. And then you get them like running away and freaking eloping and getting married, even though I could have sworn Del Rio was still married when he got engaged to, or whatever it was, with Paige. And then the freaking the wellness policy where she literally broke it, got suspended for 30 days, and then broke it again immediately, got suspended for, I think, 90 days is for the second violation. So she's one wellness policy violation from being literally just fired, which at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if she intentionally was getting caught in the wellness policy so she could get out of her contract.
I mean, yeah, because she just comes off to me as being done with the WWE. Like, even if she was to come back, I wouldn't be surprised if she was phoning in her matches and phoning in her performances, because she just strikes me as that type. Now, I could very well be wrong. I've been about a lot of things in the past, and I will be in the future. But I feel like if Paige is so miserable, you know, I hope they let her out and she's able to do what she wants to do. Maybe this is just the case of a person that was so young and so full of promise, but really didn't care to meet that promise. Maybe she wants to do something else with her life now. I mean, she's still, like, she's not even in her mid-20s yet, is she? Isn't she only, like, 22 or something? Like, how old is she?
Well, no, she's got to be at least, like, 23 or 24 at this point. Let me look real quick, because, like, she debuted in, like, 2013, didn't she? Yeah, she's 24. Right. She'll be 25 this year, but still, like, she's still ridiculously young. Like, she's one of the, like, bottom 10 youngest people on the entire roster, main event or NXT, and she's just, you know what, though? Here's my thing. This is what I'm going to say that people will disagree with, I guess. But again, I guess it does kind of come back to that Thank You for Smoking movie, Freedom of Choice. WWE is shady as hell, and they take advantage of their own mystique to pay performers less than they're worth.
Right.
So like, WWE says, oh, you want to work for the WWE? You want to work at WrestleMania? take this pay cut so that you can work in the company that you've been dreaming of working in your entire life. And everyone just agrees to it because it's the freaking WWE. Like, to me, if we based our salaries on who was legitimately like the most talented and the biggest draw, I think that if Ricochet would go to the WWE, he would be one of like the top 10, or he wouldn't be. He legitimately wouldn't be, but he should be one of the top 10 highest paid people on the roster, because that's, to me, what he would be worth. But if he would be going to the WWE, he wouldn't even be going to the main roster. They would sign him to a developmental contract, which is like $50,000 a year. And then after like 3 years of him being there, even though he would probably not need any, maybe 3 months tops to learn television angles, but after 3 years of them keeping him there and literally just using him as a draw to get more eyes on their developmental brand, then they would call him up and maybe he would be making like $400,000 by then. But like, that's how much money they gave Del Rio to come back, at least.
Yeah.
So like, that's my problem. And Paige might have just kind of realized that this was what WWE was doing and just want out. She might just realize, like, females in WWE are never going to make more than men. Females in WWE are never going to, rather than more, I shouldn't say more. Females in WWE are never going to make their fair share compared to the men. Like, you have, like, lower to mid-card guys like freaking Sheamus. Sheamus is not a main eventer. Sheamus is not a draw. But that dude makes over $1 million a year. Compared to, like, Becky Lynch, who is a proven draw and, like, actually gets more eyes on the TV product when she main events, she probably doesn't even make $200,000 a year, if I had to guess, because she's a female and because WWE and specifically Vince McMahon doesn't believe that women draw eyes or money. So, like, maybe Paige realizes all of this and she's just trying to get out for the sake of her own freaking livelihood.
Yeah, that very well could be. And again, at the end of the day, you're talking about a woman who's only 24 years old. You know, she's part of a wrestling family. She could be at a point in her life where she says, you know, my family may be about wrestling, but I don't necessarily want to be about wrestling. And if that's really how she feels, and you compound that with the reasons you just stated, then more power to her. You know, it's just it's a really weird case because, again, I remember those classic TWitWoW reviews of NXT when it was just coming up as developmental, and we were just glowingly speaking of Paige and saying, oh, what a bright future she has, and this and that. And you look at the end result, and you're just thinking to yourself, wow, that really isn't what I thought it was going to be. And that's really all there is to it. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. So I think we about covered that question as well as we can. So let's move on. Our next 3 questions are from a new commenter that I don't think I've ever seen before, Iconic6494 on YouTube. And the first question was, who would be the commissioner and GM of SmackDown between the two of you?
I'd make you GM because I feel like you make better matches, and I'd like to see you play with the roster like your own little lab rats. The only reason I'd want to be commissioner isn't because I feel like I'd do good with that power, but literally, by SmackDown standards, Shane really doesn't seem to do that much. I go, I get cheap hops, I leave. Sounds great to me. So I'd give you all creative control, and I think that's where the GM position lies. So yeah, Ashton for GM, totally.
See, and I would want to be the commissioner because the commissioner has the ability to override the GM, so the commissioner really does get more power, and the GM just is like the face of the brand, and that would be you. So it's really, like, the idea is, in general, between the two of us, we both agree that I should be making decisions and you should be the one getting the pops.
Yeah, I mean, as commissioner, I'd rubber stamp every idea you had. Like, oh, hey, John, can we do, like, a triple steel cage match with, like, these 12 different people? Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it for fucking no mercy. It sounds great. And, just sign it and get the fuck out of my office. So there you go. But yeah, I'd be a rubber stamp for your fucking insanity, and we would do amazing ratings, and Raw would just eat our shit every week. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Pretty much. I mean, that's kind of what's already happening, so not much will change.
Exactly.
Second question from Iconic6494. John versus Ashton, Extreme Rules match. Who wins?
See, now I chuckled at this because it actually implied that we would fight each other. When given an Extreme Rules stipulation, we would turn everything on the crowd, and we would just beat the shit out of all those plebeians who dare defy TWitWoW or question our amazingness. And then, of course, when Ashton got really into the beatdown, I'd low blow him. Schoolboy, get the 3 count, John wins.
Dude, I was literally going to say you would win because you would be the first person to resort to trying to win.
Exactly, because I'm such an asshole.
Well, and not only that, but I feel like you would be better at compartmentalizing, like, this isn't my friend right now, it's my opponent, I need to kill him.
Exactly. And then you would be like,
come on, man, we don't got to do this. I'll just lay down. You can just pin me. It's fine.
No, I want to earn it. I want to taste your blood.
You also always tell me, like, oh yeah, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I'm gonna just shoot you in the foot and run.
Yes, I have told him this. Like, I would pull a Walking Dead. I'd shoot him in the stomach. I'd watch him get eaten for the first 5 seconds to make sure that it worked, and then I'd crutch like hell out of there because I need all the time I could get at that point. But yeah, like, I just find the situation of us facing each other at an Extreme Rules match hilarious because you being the compassionate, rational person would be like, okay, John, we don't have to do this. Look, I'm going to talk a little trash, you talk a little trash, and then in a swerve, we turn on the crowd. But the problem is you only get half that sentence out because then you hear a crack all of a sudden, and then you're like, wow, it suddenly got harder to breathe, only to realize, wow, John just took a lead pipe to my ribs. What a fucking dick. So, yeah.
Yeah, Cliff just said, I'm Jericho, you're Kevin Owens. Yeah, like, we'd be in the match, and you'd just be like, oh, here, Ashton, I wanted to tell you something, and I get in close, and you just whisper in my ear, I'm going to kill you now. And I'm just like, what? No!
I pull out a lead pipe, and you're like, how come my name's on that? Oh, my God.
How come my name's on this?
But no, actually, you know what, though? Because then I'd realize if I was that much of a dick, I would compromise the friendship. Because, see, at least in the zombie apocalypse, you'd be dead, so I wouldn't have to live with the guilt. But if you live after that beating, I'm just like, oh, man, I can't believe I did that to him. So my conscience would be on overdrive. So for the Extreme Rules match, I mean, yeah, we would definitely...
Yeah, but you wouldn't think about your post-match conscience during the match.
I mean, that's true. It'd probably sink in after the fact, like, oh my God, I might be horrible. You know, so...
Hashtag might be.
Hashtag might be. But yeah, it'd be a fun time for like the first 10 minutes because it would be a fortified front, and then scumbag on a scumbag. So there you go.
All right, so then our third and final question from Iconic6494. This is, I think this might have been originally intended just for you, but I guess we'll both answer it anyway. Original Bullet Club or Worldwide Underground?
Now, Original Bullet Club was Balor, right? Or was
Original Bullet Club was Balor, Fale, and I want to say Anderson, Gallows, and Tonga.
Okay, I wanted to just ask that to give the appearance that I'm actually giving thought to this question. Yeah, Worldwide Underground all day, every day. Johnny Mundo forever.
Yeah,
so
I got to agree with you, man. I got to agree. But, like, the thing is, I feel like without the Bullet Club's original, like, run, I don't even know if Worldwide Underground would be a thing because they took so much from them.
That's true. You know, and honestly, like, yeah, Balor, he's great and everything. I mean, not so much anymore. I mean, given the current state of his shoulder, he can't air a guitar. But,
I think my biggest problem with this is the original Bullet Club isn't even my favorite version of the Bullet Club. My favorite version of the Bullet Club is, like, the early 2015 version where it was Styles, Young Bucks, Fale, Anderson and Gallows, and Tonga, and Takahashi. Like, that right there, if it would have been between that and Worldwide Underground, I would have taken the Bullet Club. But with just the original Bullet Club versus Worldwide Underground, I gotta go Worldwide Underground.
I agree, and I'm saying this sincerely. I probably still would have picked Worldwide Underground regardless because, I mean, Mundo, obviously. But, yeah, that conception of the Bullet Club with Styles, that would have been more of a debate even for me because those guys ruled the wrestling world, and AJ was a fucking beast leading the Bullet Club. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, so up next we had 2 more questions, and these were the ones that he actually asked in February from David Fanara. First question, do you follow What Culture WWE's YouTube channel? Used to, but don't anymore because WCW or WCPW is a joke. And the whole allure to the What Culture WWE channel for me was like, oh, let's see what Adam Blampier is going to think of next. And then I realized, like, oh, he can't actually come up with anything cool out of his own brain. He has to just take something else that already exists and try and make it better.
Yeah, that's the thing. I pretty much echo those sentiments. I was so disappointed with WCPW. And yeah, I haven't watched it since that first
episode. Dude, it's so funny because, like, Triple H had that conference call and he was like, no, we want to take promotions from the UK and Europe who actually groom talent, who actually, allow talent to grow and improve under their umbrella, not just the promotions who will pay a guy and get as much money out of his appearance as they can and then let him walk. And to me, that's like the difference between Progress and WCPW. Like, Progress is the promotion that creates stars. WCPW is the promotion that just shells out as much money as they can to bring people in so that they can slap their name on a flyer and sell some tickets.
Right. Yeah, you echoed my sentiments perfectly, dude. There's really not much I can add to this. WCPW is a big disappointment to me. Maybe one day it'll get better, but you know what I used to say that about? TNA, and look how that ended. So, yeah, that's pretty much my sentiments.
We still say that about Raw.
What? Yeah. God, my life sucks right now, in the words of Ryback.
Dude, that mood change was on a drop on a dime.
Yeah, it was kind of mimicking the Ryback. Where was it? Like, who? Oh, yeah, when Brandy Rhodes was still trying to be an interviewer, and she interviews Ryback, and he's reading this book. And he's like, oh, yeah, The Power of Positivity by George Donald Walsh. God, my life sucks right now. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, yeah, we really are optimistic about Raw, but that's never getting better. So, yeah, enjoy that little nugget of depression, everybody.
Here's to hoping Netflix makes Lucha Underground a legit competitor and New Japan starts working the U.S. more so we have 3 promotions here instead of just 1.
Hey, fucking men to that, brother.
Yay! All right, next question from Mr. Finara. And I love this one because we just got done watching one of their videos yesterday. What do you think of H3H3? Yeah, John, I'll let you take this one.
Well, I'm so proud of Ethan, first of all, for the dance moves. I hope he keeps it up.
Great moves. Keep it up.
No,
proud of you.
Ethan, to me, he's a very funny guy. I enjoy him. I love his relationship with his wife, Ela. I think they're adorable together. Enjoying the podcast he's come out with. I mean, I don't really like plugging any competitors in the podcast space, but if you guys didn't know that he has a podcast, he does. And they're really cool, very chill atmosphere. They just kind of talk, to their guests, very conversational, I think is the word I'm trying to grapple with here. And yeah, I just have a fun time with him. I think he's ridiculous. I think he's adorable. I think he's hilarious. And when he has more of an important point to make, 9 times out of 10, I find myself agreeing with him. So, yeah, I mean, nothing but good things to say about him here. What about you?
I just love how sort of down-to-earth and objective Ethan is. Because really, there's a lot of shit that comes out that's, like, sensationalist. And he tends to be the first guy that I know about that gets on YouTube and is like, guys, this is ridiculous. You need to look at the facts here. You need to know... like, this is the fake news that everyone's talking about and that kind of stuff. So I mean, H3 is always hilarious. I got to tell you, if you don't care at all about adding H3 to your regular watch list, guys, go find the first ever H3 podcast with Justin Roiland, because that is legitimately one of the funniest hours I've ever experienced of any kind of content in my entire life. It's amazing. It's ridiculous. And like, they do a crank call in a pizza place and it's completely impromptu and improvised and it's freaking incredible. Just the best.
Absolutely. I completely echo those sentiments. Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, I have to go back and listen to that podcast over again. I've already listened to it twice. Like, I already listened to it the one time when we listened to it together, and I listened to it like the day after that in my own free time. I've got to go back and listen to it again because it's that good.
Absolutely. Yeah. H3 is awesome. I love him.
Yeah. All right, second question from... oh, no, that was the second question. Okay, up next we have 3 questions from Mark Schoeneman. His first question, choose one of your favorite movies. If they made a remake, who would you want cast as the main character or characters, not including the original cast? You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, so my really one of my favorite movies of all time is probably there are a lot. The one that I'm going to go with though that I think really could use a remake is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Right.
And the reason I think it needs a remake is because I think that the first one was exquisitely made and it was an awesome movie, but it might have been ahead of its time because it was right before the comic book movie renaissance happened with Iron Man in 2008, because Scott Pilgrim came out in 2007. So I think that it was literally just like a year before it would have caught on. And because of that, it was kind of a box office failure. And now it looks to me like the odds of another Scott Pilgrim movie coming out are slim to none. So I would choose Scott Pilgrim versus the World as my remake. As far as who I would cast as the main character, Scott Pilgrim would be played by, let me look it up real quick. I have a face in mind. I just need to attach a name to it. Thomas Middleditch, the guy who plays Richard Hendricks in Silicon Valley.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So he would be my choice to play Scott Pilgrim. And it's funny because he's an older guy. He's like in his mid to late 30s, maybe. I'm not completely sure. But yeah, he was, to me, is a perfect. And really, like, if you think about it, the original, like, Michael Cera wasn't, like, he was pretty much the hottest, like, nerd character at the time. Whereas I think Thomas Middleditch kind of fulfills that role now, but he might actually be, like, I don't even want to say might. He's just straight up a better actor than Michael Cera.
Right.
Yeah. So that would be my choice to play the role of Scott Pilgrim. I don't know, like, am I supposed to recast anyone else? Because then, like, I know they had Kieran Culkin as the gay roommate. I would probably, oh man, I don't even know. My first thought, just because I was just looking at the Silicon Valley cast, is to say TJ Miller, because that would be hilarious, and those guys are great as a comedic tandem. But I don't know. Yeah, so really just Thomas Middleditch as the new Scott Pilgrim, and it's mostly just because I want Scott Pilgrim to get a remake because I love the original so much and I want it to be like updated to current day.
Yeah. You know what? Because I knew what film I would pick, like, for a while, because this is another question I encountered beforehand. You know what? I'm gonna say I'd recreate The Butterfly Effect, because that's like one of my favorite films of all time, and I love it. I would just want it recreated so, like, newer audiences could experience that story. And I think instead of Ashton Kutcher, because it really does get dark in parts, like, especially the director's cut, like, what this kid grew up with. Like, if I remember correctly, his father was pretty screwed up and incarcerated. He had really twisted, like he had a good group of friends, but he also knew, like, really twisted people that were kind of like bullies. I think I'd have Rami Malek in his place, because I love his work as Elliot on Mr. Robot. Wow. That guy could do serious.
That's a great casting choice, dude. That's insane.
And you know what? I think for the girlfriend, I'd take kind of a chance, because this is a name, like, we haven't really heard of in a while. I'd want Chloe Moretz to be the love interest. And I'd want to see how those two play off each other. Yeah.
She's not a little young? She's not a little young for that role?
She's 20. I don't know how old Rami Malek is, though. I'd have to look up his age.
Well, Rami Malek is in his 30s.
Oh, holy shit, he's 35. Wow, I thought he was much younger than that, to be honest. I honestly thought, like, he was in his 20s, too, because he's very young looking to me in the face.
And really, who do you remember who the original, wasn't it Amy Smart who played the original girlfriend?
It might have been. I'd have to look it up. Let me look it up. Because, I know Jennifer Lawrence is one of my favorite actors, but I feel like her stock has dropped recently just a little bit, so I didn't really want to go with
Amy Smart. Amy Smart played Kaylee Miller in The Butterfly Effect, so yeah, that was...
Yeah,
I think at the time, I want to say she was probably like late 20s, maybe like 30 years old at the most.
Right. Yeah, damn. I can't really think of like the actress that would play the girlfriend because I think the question said like not just main characters but like just prominent characters overall. And I know the girlfriend was a big part because that's where Ashton Kutcher in the original film makes that big sacrifice. So
She was 28. She was 28 when that movie came out, so that's kind of a good age range to start thinking about.
Yeah, because Chloe Moretz is off by 8 years because again she's 20.
But not only that, but Chloe Moretz looks like a teenager. Like, she looks really young.
And see, I thought Rami Malek looked really young too, to be fair. Like, I had no idea he was 35. Because I look at that face and I think, like, early, maybe mid-20s at most. That shocked me that he's already, like, that old. And it's not even that bad, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Maybe like Elle Fanning?
Emma Watson's 26. That was another name I thought of. I'd like to see maybe her and Rami Malek work together. That'd be a good.
Too young too. Yeah, I mean, Emma Watson. That's kind of cliche.
I mean, a little bit, but I mean, really, to me, I'm just excited about.
You got the right first name. You just got the wrong last name. Emma Stone would be perfect in that role.
Emma Stone. I thought about her too. Yeah, given the stuff that we've seen her, I'd like to see what she could do. Because have we ever seen her in anything really dramatic? Because I know like Easy A, but that was also like very comedic. Yeah, actually,
I mean. Yeah, I was going to say, dude, it's hilarious. Emma Stone's 28 years old. I just looked her up. She's already 28 years old. That's the perfect age. I was thinking more Gwen Stacy Emma Stone than, the Easy A Emma Stone.
Dude, and, looking at her in the face, just something about that works, just even looking at her. Like, it just feels right thinking about her in that kind of role. So, yeah, Rami Malek and Emma Stone in a new Butterfly.
Rami Malek, dude, that's a Grammy winner waiting to happen.
Oh, dude.
And you know Oscar winner. I don't remember which one's from.
Emma Stone recently did La La Land too, didn't she?
Yeah.
And that's going to make a killing at the Oscars. You know it. Like, so, yeah, her stock's definitely on the rise. Yeah, Rami Malek and Emma Stone in an updated, like, Butterfly Effect. And I'd use the original director's cut ending that didn't make the theatrical release where hangs himself in the umbilical cord. Yeah, where he kills himself with the umbilical cord. Like, I would just go all the way. Because I know they made, like, sequels to the movie afterwards dealing with other people with that power, and it just got so stupid to me and just so, like, where's the punch? Those two could deliver the punch for fucking sure.
So who would you cast to play, like, the best friend who, he kind of represents all the different changes as Ashton Kutcher changes timelines?
Oh yeah, that's right. The best friend. Shit, this always gets harder.
Lenny.
Lenny. Let me think.
Because I loved the original casting of Eldon Henson. I thought he was great, and he's freaking Foggy in the Daredevil series on Netflix.
Oh my god, yeah, mind blown. I didn't even make that connection. Well, shit. Because how old was he at the time of that film? Because having ages helps.
Yeah, let's see. It came out in 2004, so he would have been 7.
God damn it. Okay. Because I had like one young actor's name, but he's like 21 to 22 now, so he'd missed the age by 5 years. Alex Lothar. He was young Alan Turing in the movie The Imitation Game, and he did an episode of Black Mirror this past season. I thought it was really good. I don't know. He's not like, because I think he doesn't. He looks like he's like a one-note kind of actor though. Like he's like the smart guy, the nerd. Again, the Black Mirror episode he did, that wasn't his character at all. I actually felt like he showed impressive range. The Imitation Game, obviously younger because it was Alan freaking Turing of all people. But yeah, I felt like he could have worked. Actually, you know what?
Shia LaBeouf.
You know what? If I was really desperate, yes, because I feel like at least you'd be able to slap a name on it and it would sell. I'm trying to think. The Lemony Snicket series that recently hit Netflix. I wonder who plays the brother in that and how old he is. I don't think he's anywhere near 27, but now I'm just curious. Lemony Snicket's Netflix. But yeah, you know what? Just so we can move on, though. Rami Malek and Emma Stone, definitely for the two leads for my Butterfly Effect movie. So if you want to move on, we can.
Just looking up your Netflix series, a series of unfortunate events. And what did you say the kid's name was?
He was the brother as far as like characters go, like the older brother. So
Klaus?
that I think
No,
that's
you said older brother, right?
yeah, because there's the infant, the sister, and then the brother. Yeah,
Oh
no, it
well,
would
the
be Klaus.
sister, the older sister is older than the brother. The brother is the middle child. That's Klaus.
Right. And that's
The
Lewis
kid's name is
Hines.
Lewis Hines. Yeah, we both said it at the same time. Again, though, too young, man. You're going too young.
At least I'm at least happy I know young actors and that I'm paying attention to the scene at present. It's just they're too young. God damn it. But yeah, let's just move on because I don't want to spend all this time on this one question. So
All right. Up next, second question from Mark Schoeneman. What part of your life, non-wrestling, would be the hardest to give up for a month? And what part of your life, non-wrestling, would be the easiest to give up for 1 month? Do you want to go first or should I? I went first on the last one.
okay, so I'll go first on this one. The hardest part to give up, I mean, easily philosophy, whether reading it or writing it, because I am literally always thinking about it. In fact, when we were getting these questions together, I was looking up African philosophy, and I asked my sister to order me 5 books, which will probably be coming in the next few weeks. So I found some really good titles I'm excited to sink my teeth into. So I'm literally always thinking about it, and I've tried taking breaks from it twice. The first time was, I think, my first year in community college. It was during winter break, and I had written this huge essay on John Rawls's Veil of Ignorance thought experiment. Actually, it's one of my least favorite works that I've written in hindsight. And afterwards, I was just so tapped. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to have a break from this. And school was getting ready to start up again. After a week back in school, I was already chomping at the bit for new papers I could write. And then recently, I was feeling kind of burnt out because I was dealing with a lot of projects. So I'm like, okay, let me get some fiction books. Let me just read something other than philosophy for a change and take a break. And maybe that was like 2 or 3 weeks. That was more than the last break. But then I'm like, nah, I'm ready to come home. I'm ready to get back to this. And yeah, like I could not, because even if I'm on a break, quote unquote, I'm always thinking about it. I'm always associating myself with it in some way. So that would easily be the hardest. What wouldn't be hard to give up? I'd say video games. Because, like, I play video games now. Like, I enjoy 2K16 for a few hours, or Xenoverse, or I know, Ashton, like, you and I have been playing 2v2 Brawlhalla a lot recently. But, like, video games, they're therapeutic for me, but if I had to go without them for a month, I'd be like, okay. Because, again, I'd probably be doing philosophy anyway with the time that I'm not doing video games. So, yeah, video games would be the easiest for me. So, I'm curious, Ashton, what you couldn't give up for a month non-wrestling and what you could give up for a month non-wrestling.
Well, the hardest thing for me to give up for a month would easily be my football analytics, and especially because the month that I would have to give it up for, if it was like an immediate thing, would be the month leading up to the draft, and that is when I get the most hardcore into this stuff because I really, it's a goal of mine to literally be able to use only numbers that are given to me that are available to find anywhere online and be able to use those numbers to predict which college prospects will be better in the NFL than the NFL is able to predict by watching tape.
Right.
So I've already actually done that with one position with edge rushers. And I'm still really working on refining that because, again, I lost all of my data last week due to losing my ROM. But, that's a goal of mine. My goal in life is to be able to surpass the NFL scouting without even needing to watch film to do it.
Right.
That's like, to me, that's my ultimate number one. Like, if I am able to do that before I leave this earth, I will consider it a pretty damn satisfactory life, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the easiest thing for me to give up, and this might surprise some people because I'm pretty in deep on this, but assuming all of the responsibilities that require me to use this would just get kind of distributed to other people, whether it would be you or my mom or whatever, the easiest thing for me to give up in life for a month that isn't wrestling would be social media.
Right.
Because, I mean, Skype isn't social media. Skype is just a phone call, you know? So I'd still be able to talk to you, but like I could give up Facebook, I could give up Twitter, all that stuff, no problem. for a month, and I'd be fine without it. Because quite frankly, more often than not, I've noticed that those things annoy me more than I feel like they really help me or make me happy. So really, that's like the easiest answer in the world for me. I would give up social media for a month, and I wouldn't even blink an eye at it. But the reason I don't is because it just makes everything so much easier. Because, you know, how the hell do you think we collected all these questions in the first place? Social media.
Exactly. So that question was easier to answer than I thought it would be. But yeah, we can move on.
Yeah, next up is third and final question from Mark Shoneman. Do you listen to any non-wrestling podcasts?
You want to go first on this one?
Sure, yeah. I'll tell you what, just because I have my phone sitting right here with me, I might as well just pull up my podcast list and fill you guys in on what podcasts I have right now. I listen to more non-wrestling podcasts than I listen to wrestling podcasts. So, first one, Living the Stream. It is a fantasy football podcast, and it hasn't been updated since December 26th, so I might have to delete that one, but I'm assuming they'll be back when fantasy football season starts. The PFF College podcast, because they cover college football, and that's how I stay in tune with college football, because I don't actually have time to watch college football, even though I would love to. The H3 podcast is in my stream here. Dynasty Happy Hour is a dynasty-based fantasy football podcast. Roto Underworld is my current number one favorite podcast with really nothing even close to it. It's amazing. It's an analytics-driven fantasy football podcast that also talks about the draft, and it's amazing. It's the best. Conversations with the Big Guy, I guess that counts as wrestling, so I won't talk more about that, but it's the Ryback podcast. Draft Breakdown podcast, another draft-oriented one. Setting the Edge podcast is another NFL draft-oriented one. RotoViz Radio is just an in general sports podcast, but I delete everything that doesn't have to do with football. I listen to all of the fantasy football stuff and the NFL stuff and the college football stuff. And then Locked On NFL Draft is the other one that I have. So all of those, it's like 80% football-based, 10% other, 10% wrestling is pretty much the podcast that I listen to.
Very nice. Yeah, for me, it's weird because, I mean, I know I listen to podcasts with Ashton, but on my own, like, it's weird because if there is a podcast I like there are sometimes, like, I'll just binge a few episodes, but then I'll go the longest time without listening to it. I think what I've learned about myself is I'm not really much of an auditory kind of consumer. And I've actually been wanting to experiment a little bit, see if maybe I can improve that in some ways. But here are some podcasts that I have, like, checked out at one point or another. One of my personal favorites is a podcast called Drunken Philosophy, and it's pretty much this guy. He has, I think, either like a BA or even a master's in philosophy. His best friend, who has no philosophical training, they get drunk and they talk philosophical concepts. Like, that's a podcast I've always kind of wanted. Just two people being kind of chill. One guy being like, oh, here's this thing. And then the other guy pretty much reacting to it or kind of giving his own opinion. They've done like well over 100 episodes. And there was a point I was really binging through them. I thought I was going to catch up. But then, again, I stopped. Another good one, Philosopher's Zone, that's based in Australia. They talk about like a lot of like current events and they kind of inform them philosophically, so that's pretty cool. Historyofphilosophy.net, Peter Adamson, great guy. I've read some of his articles too. He gives like these little mini lectures, and they work so well. Like, I feel like I'll be referring to this podcast a lot when I'm done reading a particular person, just to kind of further inform my view. And then one that I think, like, I listened to one episode, and they're like the most popular philosophy podcast out there. Like, they kind of rule the scene, but I haven't listened to them that much. The Partially Examined Life. I know me and my friend Angel talk about that one a lot. So, yeah, those are just a few non-wrestling podcasts that I've either listened to or I have, like, some familiarity with. And, yeah, that's all I got.
All right, man. Well, let's see. I think question, which is our first question from Hazardous Something. What would be the most difficult to watch? Option 1, the 10 sickest horror porn movies, or porn horror movies, I guess, in a marathon. Number 2, a multi-hours package of Charlotte's promos. And number 3, a 1-year-long feud between Titus O'Neil and Taguchi. Botched promos and funky weapon included.
Okay, so what would be the hardest to watch is the question?
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, to me, there's got to be some bright spots to that horror porn, so that's out. Charlotte would have to eventually get better on the mic, I'd think. I'd hope. So I'll cross that out, which pretty much leaves, Titus O'Neil and Taguchi. That's horrible. So that's what I picked. That would easily be the hardest for me.
I'm picking Charlotte promos because she's had plenty of time to get better, and it hasn't happened, so I don't expect it to happen.
All right, you pick Charlotte promos. I pick Titus and Taguchi. Let's move on.
So, all right, next up, we have another kind of 3-point option thing. What do you foresee the Big Show doing in 2017? Option 1, flip-flopping back and forth between babyface and heel to the point that his character is irrelevant again. Option 2, leaving WWE, working the indies and jobbing to vanilla midgets. And option 3, retiring and basically just failing at life.
I feel like, was this more of a joke question? Because, I mean, really, if you wanted me to like go outside that spectrum, I'd say he's become more of a quote-unquote attraction. I do use that term loosely, but by that I mean making sporadic appearances, maybe even doing something like he did, this past Raw, working a main event match with Braun Strowman, but putting the younger big man over. But if I had to choose in that spectrum, I'd say retiring. Because there's no way they're going to put him on regularly enough, I think, at this stage of his career for him to do that flip-flopping you're thinking of. And if he's doing anything on the indies, it's to sign autographs and pimping out his name, to get that kind of appearance money. So, yeah, the most logical of those three would definitely be retiring.
Okay. Well, I'd say that's a sufficient answer, so I guess we can move on. What would be your dream comedy match? I'll let you go first on this.
That's a good question. I'm gonna say Toru Yano would make up the one half. I'd say Toru Yano and either Toru Yano versus either like a Colt Cabana or even a what's one comedy wrestler that I've Toru Yano versus who?
Chuck E. T.
Chuck Taylor, yes, that's it. Chuck Taylor, or as an alternate, Ashley Remington. That's it. Toru Yano versus either of those
Dalton
guys.
Castle.
I'm dying. Yeah, or Dalton Castle. He could be either gimmick. Doesn't matter. Yeah, either of those guys. I'm dying.
Man, man. Who? Oh, wow. This is actually really difficult for me. Because I feel like we got so many Ultimate Dream comedy matches during G1 this past year, just thanks to Toru Yano.
Right.
You know what? Because I remember the question having something about it where you can make it as many people as you want. It doesn't have to be a singles match. I'm going to say Yano, Dalton Castle, and Chuck Taylor versus Shibata, Naito, and Ciampa.
Nice. That sounds amazing.
Because you just have all the shenanigans coming from one side, and the other side is like hammering down, trying to make it serious. And those are my favorite kinds of comedy matches, when it's only a one-sided comedy match and the other person is trying to make it serious.
Right.
No! I have a new answer. My all-time dream comedy match would be Toru Yano in a one-on-one shoot-style match with Jim Cornette.
Oh my God, that sounds incredible. No, you're killing the business. And just with every minute, Jim gets redder in the face until he strokes. Therefore, everyone wins. That sounds incredible to me.
Yes. So good. I can't believe, I'm so glad. Because, the stalling that I was doing before I gave my answer was just me trying to think of a person who takes wrestling way too seriously who I would want Yano's antics to be used on. And I couldn't think of anyone until I realized, oh, wait, Jim Cornette is the only answer that could possibly work.
Right.
All right. So up next, we had 3 questions from Mr. Abel Herrera on Twitter. He's a longtime fan of TWitWoW, and I would consider him a longtime friend as well. I think you would as well.
Absolutely.
And our first question from Abel, what are your thoughts on Donald Trump's presidency so far? I'm not even going to give a well-thought-out answer to this. I'm going to give a one-word answer. Sad.
To me,
or if you want a two-word answer, low energy.
To me, you gave the succinct answer. I'll give the cynical one. It's pretty much like any other presidency, except far more explicit and out in the open. Like, some of the horrible things he's doing, it's not like other...
It's literally Reagan 2.0. Like, that's the thing. Like, people are, like, acting like they're all up in arms, like, oh, my God, how could we let this happen? We already let this happen, like, 35 years ago, guys, because this is Reagan all over again.
Yeah, like, I mean, here's the thing. And, again, my answer here, what I'm about to say, I don't mean to be vindictive or mean-spirited to anybody. This is just me answering honestly. And I think Abel knows I love him to death, and he'd probably laugh at this with me. Like, I love how everybody's reacting like, oh, Trump's committed to mass deportations. According to what I've been reading, Obama did more deportations than the last few presidents, but you don't hear about it. The only difference between Trump and every other figurehead is that the media is scrutinizing him more than ever, which, congratulations, press. You're doing your fucking job. Yeah. Like, see, and me and Ash, isn't it funny that we get this question from Abel, dude, when you and I actually had a considerable discussion about this the other night after Thank You for Smoking? And I said, like, that's kind of what disgusts me. I'm going to reiterate what I said to you here. The moral hypocrisy disgusts me because all these people that have suddenly found a soapbox, and please understand again, like I always say when I go on these tangents, I do not speak from a pulpit of perfection. I've got a lot of my own issues, and I fall short on a lot of things that I probably, would regard as a civic duty as a citizen. But all these people finding this moral outrage about immigrants or transgender people, where was that outrage when other presidents were doing the same? Oh, wait, that's right. They had the party alignment that you like. So if Hillary was doing the drone strikes, then nobody's going to say a fucking thing, right? Like, it's just, to me, the moral hypocrisy is really...
I mean, to be fair, that already happened. Obama was the one that really popularized the drone strikes in the first place, and people still act like he is, like, God's gift to all presidents and everything like that. Like, he's the greatest of all time. Like, I've literally heard white people try to defend their own racism by saying I loved Obama and I voted for him twice and I'd vote for him a third time if I could.
Yeah, and like, my thing is, you want me to sum up the Trump presidency? I'll do it in 4 words. Par for the course. Because everybody else fucking does it. The only difference is he's got more of a personality behind it, and that personality is being more scrutinized. That's it. So all this moral indignation, like, I can't believe he's our president. No, I can't believe we have a system that perpetuates violence that only now you're getting angry at. Please kindly get off your fucking high horse and walk on your shoes like the rest of us. Jesus.
That's the thing is, like, dude, you would be amazed at how many people are in my Facebook feed talking about how, like, Hillary this, Hillary that. The only reason Hillary didn't win was because America wasn't ready for a female president. Like, no, Hillary would have taken us to war with Russia. And, I can't stand the sort of the worldview of Russian leaders, but I would way rather be in a peaceful state with them than at war with them, because they are like a legit superpower who would be one of the very few countries on the planet that could actually screw the USA up in a full-on war. So, like, yeah, Hillary was literally begging, like, please make me president so that I can make not millions but billions of dollars off of this war, so that I actually never have to work ever again.
And I know, and see, this is probably where my mic probably should be cut. If I'm really being honest, if there's one thing I'm thankful for about the Trump presidency, like, it's holding up the mirror.
People are getting angry.
It's people are getting angry for one, yes, and I think anger is far better than apathy when it comes to political action. But 2, it's holding up a mirror to us, because, like, again, all other presidents did this, and, like, I remember the memes that would be shared, like, if you vote for Hillary, your bombs have glitter on them, and if you vote for Trump, they look like this, but they're still gonna fucking kill you. Whether you voted Hillary or you voted Trump, you're still...
literally, like, when you look at Trump versus Clinton, it's a matter of war with Iran or war with Russia. It's a lose-lose situation, really, and really, like, people talk about like, oh, Bernie Sanders would have been the best choice. Well, you're damn right, and you could have voted him, but that didn't really work out so well. And then, of course, there was the massive voter fraud. So, like, have fun fighting a corrupt system, people.
Yeah, and that's just it, actually. It's a corrupt system, and to me, like, I know a lot of people are legitimately, and I do not condemn them for that. My sympathies are with them for that. They are fearful of the presidency and this and that, but I'm still going to say, in spite of that, as much of an asshole as it may make me sound, if I'm grateful for anything about this presidency, it really does expose it. I would have to hear people all the time so smugly say, oh, we're the world's police. We're the symbol of freedom to the world. And now when you have a guy as president,
because to me,
I hate that too.
Mind your damn business.
Yeah, dude, I fucking hate that so much. And now you have a president that went on national television and said, oh yeah, I'd storm Iran and steal the oil. The idea that Trump explicitly says, I'm going to continue the tradition of U.S. imperialism rather than just carrying it on behind closed doors makes me laugh my fucking ass off. Yeah. I laugh so hard because I'm like, yeah, that's the protection.
By the way, remember how Trump talked about how he had a plan to destroy ISIS in 30 days?
Yeah.
Today's day 31. How'd that work out?
Yeah, how'd that work out? And I love, too, all these leaders, and now suddenly, right, like, everybody's going to be like, oh, no, Trump's so awful and all these countries are great. You would have past leaders, like, in revolutionary Latin America, like Castro's Cuba, Hugo Chavez's Venezuela, and I'm not saying those leaders are perfect, but I would always love when the U.S. would say, oh, we've got to bring democracy to those nations. Really? Bring democracy to Venezuela, the second largest producer of petroleum? You're not motivated by that at all. And you really have no interest in propping up a puppet dictator at all. Yeah, I'm just going to stay over here because the stench of the bullshit gets a lot weaker on that side of the room. Fuck yourself so hard. So to bring the question,
I mean, dude, like, here's the thing. Chavez and who was the other? Castro were absolutely scumbags, and they took what could have been a potentially great economic philosophy, which was socialism, and they turned into dictators. And because they turned into dictators, it made socialism look bad. And I am all for socialism. I think socialism is a great thing, but the people in charge can't be that kind of person. Like, I don't know how else you fix it.
I'd see, dude.
They're freaking. They went from like, yes, we'll do socialism. Everyone gets what they need. You know, free. Top people pay their fair share, and then dictators. Like, it just randomly happens all the time.
Here's my thing. I'm not saying you're 100% wrong, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm justifying the bad things they did, because you know I've already said on Q&As, I don't believe in a wholly good or wholly evil person. So at the same time,
my thing is, if you ask somebody who lived under Castro in Cuba, they are just as happy that he's dead as we would be if Trump would die.
And see, I've always found it to be a mixed bag. Like, some people are happy, other people have found like, oh yeah, the free medicine, the free education were great. But what I was going to say in regards to Castro and partially to Chavez, you know, I don't agree with everything Castro and Chavez did. Like, I never agreed with Castro killing political dissidents. However, and this again brings the U.S. question full circle. It's hard not to rule with a fucking iron fist or try and do something wonderful with a tradition of U.S. imperialism, because I guarantee if a country tried doing anything good, wouldn't be long before the U.S. would come and fuck it up, because they broadcasted all the time, oh, Cuba's the enemy, Cuba's this, and Castro even said, look, I didn't want to do it, and again, I still condemn him for that, that's no fucking excuse, but like, U.S. would always try and assassinate me, U.S. would always try and install like another person in there, so I didn't know who to fucking trust. When you have U.S. imperialism breathing down your neck.
When I first started kind of catching on to the idea that the U.S. was very corrupt and went out of their way to kind of install what they perceive to be the correct government, when they're really just trying to get, you know, military bases and oil rigs set up for their own benefit. I literally, this was in, I want to say like 2011-ish, I literally posted a prediction on Facebook that Muammar Gaddafi was being framed as a dictator in his own country, and that there would be political hitmen who would end up trying to convince him to sell them a bunch of shit for a low price, and then basically hold him hostage and hold that over his head for the rest of his life, or just straight up kill him, and then he ended up getting assassinated. So, like, this was when I was like 20, 21 years old. I really didn't know anything about the world. And to this day, I still probably don't know anywhere near as much about the world as I maybe think I do. But like,
Right.
I was like 20, 21 years old, and I was predicting shit that would happen that literally happened like a year or two later, and people were, making it seem like it was this great, like, oh, finally Gaddafi is dead, when the whole time he was just being framed as this like dictator that he wasn't really. And yeah, like the fact that a 20-year-old with a little tiny bit of information can make that call and then it comes true, to me, that's scary as hell.
Well, to me, what's scary as hell, and I'm not saying this is how people should calibrate their political compass, and I'm not saying this is how I calibrate my political compass, but anymore, because I see U.S. imperialism in action every day, any leader that the U.S. says is bad, I'm always going to have some skepticism. Like, the biggest case of that would be Assad in Syria today. Like, you don't know on like certain venues that I go to, the divide between like pro-Assad and anti-Assad. And one of the reasons so many people are pro-Assad, they don't want U.S. influence in Syria. I can tell you that's what makes a lot of Cubans sad. We were talking about Castro's Cuba. Now that Castro's dead, a lot of people don't seem to like his brother Raul, because now the U.S. is buying private property. They're buying industry in Cuba. That means they're going to have more influence on the economic and political course of the country. And see, that's what scares me. So you want to ask me what I think about Trump. Trump is just another figurehead that's going to continue the long tradition of expansion of the U.S. Manifest Destiny never died. It just got a new name. Like, we're still continuing that same conquest that we started all those centuries ago. And the only thing about Trump that you could take as a positive or a negative is he's so explicit about it. Because again, this guy said on national television, I want to go into Iran and I want to steal the oil. So when you make your imperialism well known, that's not a good fucking look. And you know what? I say good. Keep making it well known so that people know what we're really about, so I can stop hearing that world police bullshit. That's my answer to that question, so we can move on if you want.
Okay, I dig it. Up next, second question from Abel. At what point in your life did you identify yourself as an atheist?
Actually, Ashton, you could go first on this one.
I think I went for the last one. I'll let you go first.
Okay, well, fair enough then. Fuck me. Yeah, for me, it was.
Wow, I wasn't trying to be confrontational. I swear, I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. Yeah. No, for me, it's very interesting because, like, it wasn't even like this profound moment, like, oh my God, there is no God. Like, I never had one of those. I think actually it was always kind of, it was more like a gradual shedding of the skin. And that's why I think I like my coming to atheism, because it wasn't like one of these overly dramatic, like, oh, I read Nietzsche for the first time. And, because actually there are people I know that were like that, which kind of make me smile. For me, I started out as a Christian because I consider that the default position of a lot of people in America, given the households they grow up in. Then there was a time I was a deist because I like the idea that God set the world in motion like a clock and then just like stood outside of it. Because
I think that's like a natural progression for most people who become atheists, is you go, theist, deist, agnostic, atheist.
Yeah. And I pretty much, I think I had the same progression. And learning about like Enlightenment France and all the thinkers that were challenging the conception of God, I found so interesting. And then, just very quietly for several years, I was an atheist. And then one day I took a walk with my grandmother and she was like, oh, what do you think happens after you die? I'm like, nothing. I'm just like, you decompose, maybe you get a few flowers to sprout up, or maybe worms, get to have a nice feast because of you, but that's it. And she's like, you don't believe a soul, you don't believe in heaven? I'm like, nah. And I really wish I hadn't told her that, because now I just feel like more God references come up in our phone calls sometimes. And she'll tell me, oh, you'll have a conversion. And I don't even really see myself being the type to have a deathbed conversion. And I feel like I have a healthy relationship with religion because, I do have friends that are very religious. I don't openly hate it, to a point. I think there are certain points that kind of sicken me, what happens with religion. But, as I even said, don't know if I said it in a Q&A. I know I said it on Facebook. I'm even going to be studying like Christian theology because a Japanese philosopher I was studying, it was kind of a rabbit hole for me intellectually. But that's the thing. My atheism is one that I feel I can safely engage all of this stuff. And really, if I could sum up my atheism in a soundbite, and I wish I could remember the guy who said this, but one quote, theology is pretty much anthropology. because God is a man-made construct. Theology would be better started as anthropology, which is pretty much the study of peoples and civilizations. That'd be a better investment of time. So, yeah, your turn.
Yeah, it was kind of similar for me. When I was in high school, I actually ran with a pretty religious group of friends. One of my best friends in high school was the son of a preacher. So I ran with a pretty religious group of friends in high school, and I was always asking them questions in our lunch periods because we all sat together at lunch. And it was always religious-based questions, and there were some answers that they would give me that I just, like, I would be like, oh, yeah, that's cool, like, out on the exterior, but on the inside, I was just thinking, man, that's some bullshit right there. And then, like, I remember I was at college, and it was early on in my college career, I guess you could call it, like my first or second term there, and I would come home on weekends, for the basic college student stuff, like get my laundry done, get some fun, like good meals in my stomach, home cooked meals, that kind of thing. And I was sitting on a bed one time, and my mom said something like, "We got to get you baptized." And I didn't even think about it at the time, but when she said that, I felt really offended. Like, I hadn't even really thought about religion at that point, but when my mom said, "Oh, we got to get you baptized," I felt like I lashed out at her. I was like, "What?" And like I was angry, and I wasn't even really internalizing why I was so angry. And I guess that was kind of the moment that I realized, like, oh shit, I don't believe in God. Like that was like my aha moment. That was like, why else would I be this angry about my mom wanting to get me baptized if I didn't think it was all bullshit? And like the thing is, I'm not even joking when I tell you my dad took me to church when I was like 15, 16, 17-ish. I think it was my senior year of high school, so I would have been like 16, maybe 17 years old. And he took me to a church around Christmas time with his wife at the time, my former stepmom. And I remember sitting there just taking everything in. And all I could think to myself was, oh my God, this is like these people actually believe this. And then at the end, my dad like tried to have me like saved, and I kind of like played along, but I didn't actually believe a word that I was saying. And then the college thing happened where I was sitting on the bed and my mom said, "We got to get you baptized." I was offended, and I was like, damn, like why was I so offended? And then I remember I was on a forum, and it was a forum for an online browser-based football MMO called Goal Line Blitz.
Right.
And I was just exploring the forum, and there was a thread about best stand-up comics. And I was going in there getting ready to say, like, oh, Daniel Tosh, Dimitri Martin, all that stuff. And I kept on noticing this George Carlin name kept coming up. And I saw it in, like, the 1, 2, or 3 spot of almost every list. And the list that he wasn't on, well, the list that didn't have him in the 1, 2, or 3 spot, he just wasn't on the list because those people just didn't know about him. But, like, everyone that had him on their list, he was in, like, the top 3 spots. So I was like, well, damn, like, if this guy's that good, I got to check him out. And I checked him out. And it turns out this stand-up comic also did material on anti-theism and about how religion is a joke and all that stuff. So I like immediately fell in love, and like he was really the first one that really got me thinking, like, this religion stuff really makes very little sense when you actually break it down and look at it from a logical standpoint. And from then I just kind of formed my own ideas about everything, and that was kind of my, and really I was just kind of a Carlin follower for the longest time, where just whatever Carlin said, I bought into it, I believed it, and I took it into my own philosophy. But then after a couple years of being like a purebred Carlinist, I started forming my own opinions, and the one big thing that really stuck with me from before and during my time of being that Carlin, like hardcore Carlin mark, was like, yeah, religion doesn't make sense to me. I shouldn't be forced to believe something that I can't honestly say that I believe. So yeah, I'm just not. And then like there was also a period when I was like an angry atheist, when I was like, God, why can't these people just open up their eyes and see what the truth is and realize that what they believe in is bullshit and all that stuff? And I was like listening to atheist podcasts every, like a few days, every week, if not every day. and like I was a big fan of the Thinking Atheist, and the there was another podcast that I listened to that I don't even remember the name of. It was, damn, do you remember the one that I used to listen to that was about atheism and that kind of stuff?
Oh, was it Dogma Debate?
Dogma Debate, yeah, that was one that I listened to, and the biggest reason I loved that one was because they had I don't think it was an anthropologist, but it was something like that, somebody that dug up fossils of like dinosaurs and stuff. Archaeologist, thank you. They had an actual archaeologist on the show who talked about science and like how life was created from a scientific standpoint rather than from a freaking, you know, religious, intelligent design standpoint. And you know, like there was a lot that went into me going from like, no, I don't believe in God to, okay, if you believe in God, you're a mark, you know, like.
And
that,
you know, for me,
that transition, you know,
yeah,
it was a slow process, but now I'm kind of in a good spot where like, as long as religion doesn't get openly brought up and like shoved in my face, I can pretty much ignore it for the most part. As like, because I went through a period where I was angry at religion and religious people. So I'm going to back off now. I know you want to say something. So what was it you wanted to say?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to share kind of my own anecdotes. For one, the name I was thinking of was Ludwig Feuerbach. He was a German anthropologist and philosopher. He was the one that said theology is anthropology. I actually have his works bookmarked. When I'm studying more philosophy of religion, I'm definitely going to get his works because they're supposed to be like seminal, like really great stuff. But yeah, the only time I can like actively remember being in a church, because I mean I can say a lot, like my grandmother like had her own kind of spiritual beliefs, but one thing I will always give her credit for, she never foisted them upon me and my sister at a young age when we'd be really impressionable. Like she never took us to church, she never did any of that stuff. And why I bring that up, one time I went to church, it was for my cousin Scarlet Rose's baptism. And I'm like, okay. And the church, admittedly, from an architectural standpoint, very beautiful, you know, very beautiful looking church. They do the ceremony, and it wasn't even bad. Like, I wasn't like, oh man, this is so cool. You know, can we do this? I mean, I wasn't that enthused, but I'm like, okay, this is fine. What annoyed the fuck out of me, though, was when the collection plate made 2 rounds. Because they made 1 round, and I'm like, all right. And then they make a second round, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? You just tap these people. And when we walk out of the church, I lean into my grandmother so that our other relatives couldn't hear. And I'm like, thank you so much for never taking me to church as a kid, because that was some bullshit. And she's like, you know, you're welcome. So even though she has her beliefs, and I know she'd like me to believe in God, I have to give her credit that she at least allowed me the freedom to make that choice rather than foisting it upon me like so many parents do to their kids, which I think is so sad. Because I feel like even if you are religious, I feel like your religious experience would be richer and more beautiful if you came to it by your own choice, you know, rather than just somebody being like, no, you have to believe this. I think that's utter crap. And yeah, like I may have only had like one period where I was like the angry atheist as you described, because again, one of my favorite historical periods is the French Enlightenment. I fucking love that period. And one of my favorite thinkers was Denis Diderot, who made the first encyclopedia. And one of my favorite quotes is, the people will never be free until the last king is strangled with the entrails of the last priest. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how he felt about religion. You know, and there are certain things I still believe to this day. Like, I don't believe that churches should have tax exempt status. I think especially like these mega churches are actually kind of sickening. I feel like churches could do a lot more good. A sentiment that one of my very theistic friends, who's a philosophy professor, agrees with, because we actually had a long conversation. We never really debate each other. We just talk about how each view could kind of be better in its own way. So yeah, I'm very thankful with where I am as far as my religious disposition, but I had to share that one story because yeah, that just showed that I definitely backed the right horse, because that was some bullshit. I mean, going around twice with those fucking collection plates, I'm like, yeah, no thanks.
Dude, it's weird because it's the more I think about it, the more I realize like my dad was like he really was trying to push religion on me, because like, even like when I was in college, he gave me a movie, and I don't even remember the name of it, but it was a football movie, so he knew I would be potentially into it. But it was like one of those like Christian propaganda football movies where like the halftime speech is God has a plan for you and you're going to just follow that plan. And if God wants you to win, you're going to win. So just do your best kind of thing. And like, so like my dad was such a proponent of making, like pushing that religion on me. And then like, I remember another, like it might've been like one of my last few months at college or one of the first few months that I was out of college. He sent me a freaking Josh Fierstein video supposedly proving the existence of God. And I was like, really? Like, oh God, man, that
Dude.
In hindsight, it's amazing how much he's tried to push religion. I mean, he was the only one that took me to church too, if I remember correctly. So yeah, like my dad was definitely more of a proponent of religion than anyone else in my family. And thankfully I've been able to kind of keep my head above water in that part. So yeah,
just one more thing. I know this is kind of off topic, but since we're sharing like our experiences as atheists in an increasingly secular but still very predominantly Christian world, more so nation, and we're just keeping it to the United States, I had the incredible, and I don't know why I decided to do it. You know what? You know why I think it was? Because one of the characters was supposed to be like this evil philosophy professor, and I'm like, oh fuck no. You are not doing this to me. So I watched God's Not Dead.
Oh my goodness.
Christians, you need to make better movies, bruh. Your movies fucking suck. Because the whole thing, and see, this is what I don't like, right? Because again, I know religious people that seem grounded and aren't obnoxious and whatever, and yet you get this Christian sect, it's so black and white with like they don't even allow the least bit of ambiguity. You know what I mean? It's like all these people are evil and we're good. And like just the opening scene made me so angry because it's the guy that used to do Hercules, which I used to like until I found out the guy was a fucking mark. He's the philosophy professor, and he's got this whiteboard of like all these people that are philosophers, and Richard Dawkins was on there, so I'm like, way to do your fucking homework. He's the furthest thing from a fucking philosopher. And they're like, oh, the only thing you need to do to pass this philosophy course is write God is dead, Nietzsche's famous quote, and you pass the class. And then I'm like, strike two. No philosophy course works that way. Even though the field, according to a survey done in 2013 that I think I did take part in, like 90% of the field is atheist today. They're not out like against theistic students in their courses. You could make arguments that they'd accept because, of certain conditions or whatever. So it's not, that simple. It's not a fucking witch hunt. And this one kid's like, no, I won't do it. I won't write it. And the teacher's like, what? You're debating me in a philosophy class? This is unheard. And it just, like, I love what I do so much. And I just feel like the movie was pretty much just shitting on it to further its own Christian message for like over an hour. And when it was done, I'm like, don't you ever misrepresent what we fucking do ever again. That was a sick. That was the closest I ever came to reverting back to an angry atheist. Because I'm like, you guys aren't even trying to fucking hide it. Oh yeah, and you make Duck Dynasty people seem like the fucking good guys. That's fucking hilarious. Oh my god, that movie was trash. So trash. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And by the way, the liberal journalist.
Like if you like look back on your life, there are going to be those moments where like even after you accepted like, okay, I don't believe in God, that makes me an atheist, this is who I am now. So, like there are so many moments even after that moment in my life that I just watched videos that either maybe made me like question like and then I did more research and I was like, oh, that's bullshit, never mind, I'm back to being an atheist and confident about it. Or moments where I was like listening to a debate between an atheist and a religious person, and the religious person, like I always noticed in these debates that religious people resort to one of three tactics. The first tactic being redefine words to fit their argument. Like for example, theory. A scientific theory is about as close to a fact as something can possibly get. A theory is, the theory of gravity. The theory of the evolution is a theory, but a scientific theory is a fact. And then
Right.
the religious people will say, oh, that's just a theory, as if to say that's just a hypothesis, which is the word they want to use, but they're ignorant on the subject. And a lot of the times I noticed that they will be intentionally ignorant of the subject. But then another tactic that I noticed a lot was anecdotal evidence. Like, oh, my friend prayed for his mom's cataracts to go away and God healed her. And like, if you know about a guy named Tim Minchin, he has a song called Thank You God. And it's like, thank you God for fixing the cataracts on this dude's mom. Because just the idea that praying to an omniscient being who, again, like, if it's an omniscient being, does he have a plan or does he not? Because if he has a plan, praying is useless. And if he doesn't have a plan, then the whole idea of God's plan kind of gets thrown out the window. So there's another contradiction. But yeah, and then like the other tactic that I noticed that they always resort to was the God of the gaps. If we don't know something, must be God. So like, it was one of those things where I would literally try and like figure out how long it would take into a debate for the religious person to resort to one of those three antics, and it rarely took more than 2 minutes.
Yeah, see, for me, what it comes down to is I'll always be an atheist. If I was to ever have an ideological shift, I would shift at best, not even to agnosticism, but to fictional theism, which was a concept. I had read a paper a few weeks back. It was like 13 pages, almost written in the form of like a Socratic dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's this woman who heads this creationist society. And they're like, oh, you must provide one argument that God exists to get into this society. And the guy goes, okay, here's my argument. Man created God, therefore God exists. Going back again to the Feuerbach line, theology is anthropology. So that's the most I would convert to, would be, oh, if you couldn't be an atheist, what would you be? I'd say I'd be a fictional theist. I can acknowledge that God exists, but he's a man-made creation, much like Harry Potter or Sherlock Holmes or any of those characters, which also works because nobody can deny that religion as a human construct has had tangible social and political effects. Not saying they're positive, I'm just calling them effects. So yeah, fictional theism would work because I acknowledge the existence of God, but I acknowledge it's a man-made construct that has tangible social and economic and etc. effects. So that would be it. But yeah, I'm just an atheist generally because I don't believe in a metaphysical concept of God as this all-powerful, all-knowing deity. That to me just doesn't exist.
Yeah, like sometimes it helps me to rationalize the concept of God as just replacing the phrase God with the universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, yeah, like I can understand that. I think we've about,
we exhausted that question.
Up next, third and final question from Abel. Do you think college should be free? I'll go first on this. Yes. I don't think that information should have a cost attached to it, and that includes college. I think that all colleges should be tuition free. I think that if you ask the richest people in the country to pay their fair share of taxes, that would more than cover free tuition for anybody that wants it. And even more than that, there'd be more stuff that would be able to be accessible then for free, including healthcare. So yes, I think college should be free.
And I'll emphasize what you just said. Hell the fuck yes. I have been a big proponent for the last several years, ever since hearing the story about Aaron Schwartz, for open information. That's why I've been hearing that there's like a Pirate Bay, and has been for the last several years, pretty much of scientific articles that people can go and download. Like, you have no idea how much it angers me, both for the scientific community and the philosophical community of which I'm a part, like how expensive textbooks or even downloading articles are. Like, the prices are exorbitant. And then you look at college, tuition fees are absurd. And I agree with Noam Chomsky. You look at the tuition fees, you look at the loan system, that's to really smother the young people that enter the educational institutions that could use those energies and those faculties to create a better society or to improve the society that they're in, but instead they're expending those energies towards paying debt. So if you want a better society, you make the institutions free, you make the resources of those institutions free, because I am a big believer in making text-based resources free, and really, again, all resources. And then you send these people out, and then you get the return on your investment by having a better society with more scientific progress, better medicine, better climate, better everything, because that's what knowledge fucking does. It improves shit. I never got the whole concept of, oh, well, I'm not, and then the conservatives that share the military, like, oh, you want a free college? Go and start, like, fuck off. You know, like, seriously.
Yeah, like you shouldn't have to put your life on the line in order to be granted information.
And not to sound like those SJW kind of Instagram type of feminists, or Tumblr, excuse me, but like I also find that sentiment kind of ableist in a way, because I have cerebral palsy to the point where I couldn't serve, right?
Yeah.
So yet, like, I'm just supposed to stay in the corner and not live. Like I'm just supposed to, like, what the fuck ever. So yeah, thanks for that, Essels.
That's like, to me, if you just get the, you know, I don't think people realize this, but before Reagan took over in 1982, the top tax bracket, meaning like the people making over, I think it was 200,000 back then, it'd probably be closer to like either 500,000 or $1 million these days. They paid like 74% on their income taxes. Like, it's not unheard of for somebody to pay that much on their income tax. And the thing is too, like, I don't think people understand that, like, you're not literally taking like, oh, I made $2 million last year and having to pay 74% of $2 million. No, like the brackets work upwards. So like,
right.
if you make $5,000 and there's a tax bracket from 2 to 4,000 where you have to pay 10%, and then from 4 to 6,000 where you have to pay 15%, you're not, just because you fall into the 15% bracket, you're not paying 15% of 5,000. You're paying 10% of what you made from 2 to 4,000, which would be $200, and then you're paying 15% of what you made from 4,000 to 5,000. So 15% of 1,000 would be another $150. So, you know, that's your total what you're paying. You're not paying 15% just because you land in the 50% category. So like, if somebody lands in that 74% category, they're not paying 74% of all of their money. They're paying 74% of what they make over the tax bracket threshold.
Yeah, I mean, dude, me...
Dude, here's the crazy thing. Back in the day, back when we had a gold standard, the top tax bracket was like 91%. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. I mean, everything just went to shit. And that's why, like, I feel like, because I don't know if any of you guys have seen them. I know I've experienced them firsthand, but like those massive online open courses, I think those are going to kind of be the future in a way. I know there have been sites that have popped up like, oh, create your own courses. I've even thought about getting into that. I was a little too overzealous. I think give me like, and I'm not even joking, give me like a decade. I'll probably make a run at that. But yeah, like, I feel like that's the future of education. I feel like brick and mortar is slowly being phased out, and pretty soon all education will be internet based. The unfortunate thing is that doesn't necessarily equate with, it's not equivalent to open access, you know, because I always feel like there's going to be some kind of paywall or this, that, or the other, and it's so fucking maddening, because I don't understand why this isn't open to people. But then you realize, oh no, I do know why, because, you know, it's all about control, and it's all about, you know, conforming to the status quo and maintaining the system. And you maintain this kind of what I would consider like a predatory capitalism, because trickle-down economics is bullshit, by having people sweat over fucking loans they should have never had to pay in the first place. So it's the world we live in. But yeah, to answer your question more succinctly, absolutely yes, free college for sure.
All right,
who's next?
So yeah, up next, let me get back to my my spreadsheet, or my Word document here. Up next, we had one question from Jackie on Twitter. Who is your favorite women's wrestler, and why is she your favorite? All right, but I'll let you take this first, John, because I think I went first last time.
You know, I really love Ember Moon. I think she's my favorite right now. Because, you know, her in-ring work to me is just perfection. Promo, I'll admit, like, I do feel like she could use a little bit of work, but at the same time, that's a prospect that excites me. It doesn't really make me tentative, because I'm like, oh, what could she turn into with the right amount of practice, with the right direction, you know, whatever. So I see, like, possibility when I see Ember Moon. Yeah, I'm all about her right now. I'm actually glad she lost that triple threat on this past episode of NXT, because one, it's only going to be a TV title match, and two, it just keeps building to her finally being the number one contender, so that's only going to do her more favors. So yeah, I definitely say Ember Moon right now. What about you, bro?
I mean, that's fair. Ember Moon is great. For me, and maybe this will kind of put an exclamation point on how much pain I've been in over the last few months. I think my favorite female performer in the world right now is Emma. So yeah, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, dude. I love Emma too. The only reason I didn't pick her as my favorite is because I can't take the pain of them not doing anything with her. So like I know Ember Moon's going somewhere, so I know I'll be able to enjoy that investment. Emma's been a fucking crime. I get why you picked her because that NXT work, she has such a body of work. I mean, to me, Asuka may be the champion and she may have been dominant. Emma to me was always more exciting. I still wish she would have gotten a run with that NXT Women's Championship. And I feel like she'll go out having no championships, but a great body of work outside of that because nobody knows what the fuck to do with her, even though it's really simple. Just let her go out there and be the Queen of Strong Style.
Honestly, I think Emma might be the only person on the planet that could get me to watch TNA, because if WWE would let her go and she would make the terrible decision of signing with TNA, I would have to check in on TNA just to see what they do with her.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm right there with you. Like, Emma is a fucking gem. If she would go to TNA, I would watch the YouTube clips at least with her in them, or I'd find the episodes and I would at least just isolate the part, like the segment she was in, watch it, and then call it a day. Like, I definitely would keep my finger on the pulse with her. And if she went to Lucha Underground,
that's the dream right there, brother. That's the dream.
Yes. I think I just orgasmed. That's how much the dream it is. Like, because then she'd be able to wrestle the men too. And God, that just sounds amazing. Like Emma versus Son of Havoc. Just like that'd be a match I'd love to see.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Emma versus, dude. Emma, yeah. But just really, Emma in New Japan would be freaking glorious even. Like, I imagine her going up against freaking the Japanese dudes, and it would be awesome. Like, yeah, just Emma's just the best. She's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Up next, we had a trio of questions from DBK. First question, what's your favorite episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from each season? Do you want to go first or should I?
Oh, God. See, that's going to be hard for me, but I might as well go first for that reason. Can you help me out a little bit, though, in terms of, like, recollections?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll kind of be all over the place. I can tell you this past episode we got was probably my favorite of this season because I
agree with that. I agree with that for sure, yeah.
I love the paranoia. I love the tension. And, of course, the philosopher in me love the philosophical questions like, oh, our bodies don't matter. It's only minds. And I'm seeing a lot of philosophical material on AI lately, and I think it's only going to blow up as the years progress, but I digress. What was the season? Was that the end of season 1 that Grant Ward revealed himself to be a member of Hydra?
Yeah, that was like episode 19, I think, of season 1, 18 or 19.
Yeah, that was my favorite. God, you know, I remember once telling Ashton when it came to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think I told him pretty much verbatim, you know, it really sucks about that Nazi stuff, because if it wasn't for that, I would just go all in on Hydra. I fucking loved how they were portrayed on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought they were great with, like, the technological advancement and world domination. And then I even read, like, about some of them in the comics, and I'm like, man, you guys just... You had to back those people. Like, you couldn't just be evil. You had to be the evil, and it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But yeah, Hydra was great on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And continuing that trend, what was the episode and the season where they're on the planet that's actually alive? And you and I were freaking out about that, and they had to go
which one? Are we talking about the one where it was just Gemma when she was stranded there, or the one where they all went there and, like,
where they all went there, and Coulson
Fitz shot the dude with the freaking flare gun and burned him alive, and then you saw the creepy crawly crawling out of his burning skull.
Yeah, that was the one, because that same one, didn't Coulson crush Ward's chest?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking great.
I want to say that was I think that was the mid-season finale of season 3.
So then was the actual finale, because what season is this now of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? It's not 4. Oh, it is 4. Holy shit. So then, season 3 then did have Skye becoming Quake because her boyfriend died in space, whose name I forget. And then, she couldn't take that. I mean, that was a great episode too. But yeah, Lincoln, that's right. Coulson killing Ward, that was my favorite because, I mean, holy fuck, Coulson. Jesus. So, yeah, Ward revealing himself to be Hydra for season 1. Season 4, this past episode we just got, because that just between the intellectual stuff and the tension, like a perfect episode for me. What was season 2? Because I know that was like Hydra. Hydra was a big part for a long time, but like, what were some big things that happened in season 2?
Season 2 was a lot about Inhumans and stuff. Remember, that was like Reina and like that big like Inhuman society where we first met Lincoln and Sky's mom and her father, who ended up being Mr. Hyde and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd say like the final episode of that little arc where like Daisy does go to that place and she meets her mom and her dad, but then like everything goes south and the mom turns out to be like crazy as fuck. Yeah, that was a great episode. I love that. And then she killed Reina prior to that, I remember, and that was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole like Sky putting her mother down and just being like, nah, bitch, you crazy. I'm out. And then like helping her father. That was a really good episode. So I'd say that. And I think I covered all the seasons then. Because I said season 1 was 4.
There's been 4.
All right, so now you got that was actually thank you for helping me, by the way. That's the only thing that made this easier than what it would have been. But your turn.
So in season 1, I am right there with you. The episode that Ward turned heel was the stuff of legends, like just the cold-hearted, like freaking director of S.H.I.E.L.D. chilling out in this plane with him, like telling him, okay, get ready, we're about to land, and he just whips out a gun and kills all of the freaking Hydra or S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel on board, and then it's just him and freaking what's his name? The bad guy. His name. Oh my god, I forget his name. Oh, the guy that was played by freaking Bill Paxton. Oh, what was his name? Garrett. Something Garrett. What was it?
Well, you could just go Garrett because I think, yeah.
Garrett. It's Garrett. Something Garrett. I don't remember. Agent Garrett. Let's just go with that. But he was an amazing heel too. But really, Ward's heel turn was the best. Season 2. There was an episode in season 2 where Daisy's father, Mr. Hyde, collected these random Inhumans, and it was like one of them had the ability to like shoot out supersonic waves just by opening his mouth and yelling. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember.
That was I think that would probably be my favorite episode of season 2. You know what? My favorite episode of season 2 is probably the season 2 finale, because that was an amazing, like I believe that was the episode that Trip died. Daisy got her power, or no, she didn't get her power. She got her powers earlier than that, but that was the episode that like everything happened. Like Coulson killed the freaking Hydra guy. I don't remember his name. And like Daisy killed Jia Ying, who was her mom, I guess. And then like we saw the freaking Terrigen spread out through the ocean and get turned into fish oil. So we knew like that was setting up like, holy crap, season 3, we're going to get a bunch more Inhumans. So probably the season 2 finale for season 2. Season 3 was such a good season. Because to me, there are 2 really strong contenders for my favorite episode of that season. First of all, 4,722 hours, which was the episode where Gemma was on the death planet for that entire amount of time, and it was like all like the entire episode centered around her, and she was just stranded there.
Oh, that was so good, dude. That was so
Amazing
good.
Episode. There was an episode called Closure that was episode 9, I believe, and that was another really good one. And I remember like after that episode was over, I posted on Reddit about how we got everything in this episode except for the goddamn title, because like it was one of those episodes that left so many open strands that we needed to get actual closure on in future episodes, because like we had like Bobby Hunter. I think this was the episode where she got kidnapped and was like getting like tortured, like pins under her fingernails. And like, I think this is the episode where Simmons was also in a torture chamber about to get it maybe even worse than Bobby. Like, this was a crazy episode. And then another one that I remember was, and probably my favorite moment in the history of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the episode where Lash kills a bunch of hive minds, a bunch of like members of the hive, saves Daisy from hive, and gets killed all in one breath. Like, that to me was like the best scene in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. history.
Yeah, I know you were really big on the Lash character, and yeah, that scene was epic as hell.
If it wasn't for the great writing, Lash dying would have been like Shane dying in Walking Dead, where I just stopped caring about the show as a whole. I love that character so much.
Absolutely.
And like the thing with Lash was like I really wanted him to get redeemed. Like I wanted Andrew as Lash to fulfill his purpose, and then because he finally fulfilled his purpose, he doesn't have this constant urge to kill Inhumans anymore, and he can literally just join the team as another member of like the group of Inhumans that help the S.H.I.E.L.D. people with their job. Like, I wanted that. I wanted him to be a regular, and I wanted him as a part of the main cast. And then, like, he finally redeems himself and immediately dies afterwards. That killed me inside.
Yeah, that was heart-wrenching, man. God damn.
But yeah, then this season, the one where Robbie and Coulson are trapped in like an alternative dimension that parallels the actual universe, where like Robbie's uncle like starts manipulating this black matter that's like pure carbon, and that like we have to have the dark hold, and Ada has to read the dark hold so she can figure out how to bring Robbie and Coulson back from this alternative dimension. That was a good runner-up for this most recent episode as far as best episode of the fourth season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This fourth season's been quite solid. And
dude, this fourth season has been so good. It's actually getting broken up into 3 separate like chunks, like 3 arcs within a season. Because the first one was the Ghost Rider arc, and then this most recent one was the LMD arc. And then when the show comes back on April 4th, it's going to be Agents of Hydra.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, because the ending image with May and like that Hydra bill. Oh my. Well,
and Daisy like literally like living with and being with Grant Ward. Like,
I popped for that. That because I didn't know if he was going to go back or like what his status was, and then I see that and I'm like, yeah, dude, again, like, call it Johnny Scumbag.
Like the writers of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are just like, Brett Dalton, we can't quit you.
Dude, I love too that the villains are written so well on it, because I get behind every single one to the point where you looked at me like when we were watching one episode and you're just like, I love that you're so pro minority. Like, you know it's not gonna go your way, but you go with it anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna have so much fun with that Agents of Hydra arc, and that LMD arc was fucking fantastic. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just keeps like building, and I really do think their new time slot.
And you know what? I'm really happy because I saw something the other day that they got a 5th season. That makes me so happy, because I thought season 4 would be the last season we get of this show, and I would have been devastated.
Yeah, see, like, I was kind of waffling on that, because then part of me thought, well, maybe, but then there are so many ways to accumulate views these days, like, besides,
well,
like...
and to me, like, what's so great about AOS, too, is that they find ways to sort of weave in and out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline, and they make certain references, and there are little things that tie back into the movies, and they can use that as a vehicle to build to the movies as they get released. So I think that's like an invaluable asset to have if you're Marvel, and I wouldn't want to lose that.
And dude, what makes me so excited about this Agents of Hydra arc, because I love the stuff they've done with Hydra in the prior seasons, as I've made explicitly clear now. I love this new time slot that they're in, because that last episode that we saw was crazy as fuck, especially the scenes between Fitz and Gemma that got like dark and went there.
I swear to you, I know you were talking about Fitz and Gemma, but to me, the scene in the dark room, like closet area between Gemma and Sky, Daisy, whatever you want to call her, like, that might be the single greatest cinematic hug of all time.
Yeah, and like knowing that they've got
Because
this
like
time,
there's this huge buildup, and Daisy's like, no, it's me. You've got to believe me. And Gemma, having just literally had to murder her love of her life because it turns out he was actually a freaking android who was interested in ending her life. Like she has her trust level it's not just low, it's negative, it's broken, it's shattered. There is no trust. She is ready to kill the next thing that makes her feel even a little bit uncomfortable. And here's Daisy, literally got confirmed, oh, she's an LMD by the LMD detector, but little did they realize, like, no, there was an extra one and it happened to be Fitz. But no, like, still, like, the fact that she can't trust her, and then Daisy grabs her and pulls her in and quakes her. And not only does that allow Gemma to realize, like, oh yeah, LMDs don't have inhuman powers, but also Daisy feels the bone structure of Gemma's body. And then in that moment, as they realize that they are each other, they're already hugging, and they just hug tighter because it's an actual friendship hug. Like, yes, we're real people. I'm so happy you're here. I love you.
Yeah, that was fucking beautiful. And to really round out what I was saying, like, you've got this Agents of Hydra arc, and with this time slot where I think they're allowed to do more and go to darker places, I think this is going to be so good. Like, so good. And yeah, having Brett Dalton back and knowing, because dude, that's the beautiful thing about this show too, because like they'd always tease, like, you know, Skye and Ward, like, Skye feels so betrayed, but I don't know if she could ever truly outright hate Ward. Like, there's always going to be that chemistry on a certain level between the two. And now in this world, they're like they're together. They're on the same side in the name of Hydra. Yep. That is horrifying and exciting all at once. That is so good. I can't wait. So good.
And we have to wait till April. God.
April, when exactly? Do they have an exact date or just April? Like,
yeah, April 5th. It's 2 days after WrestleMania is going to be the next episode.
That's going to be a very productive week because you got post WrestleMania Raw, post WrestleMania SmackDown, and then Agents of Shield, like all in you know, same breath.
Luckily, we don't have to review NXT that week because it's the first week after a takeover.
Yeah, we're definitely going to want a come down day just after like WrestleMania and the post WrestleMania shows, and then Agents of Shield. Like, yeah, we're going to need a breather. But was that the first question of a badger? Where are we? Because we really got into that.
That was the first of 3 questions from DBK. The second one is, what's your favorite live reaction?
Favorite live definitely, I mean, not to be narcissistic, but definitely me marking out to Johnny Mundo winning the world title. I mean, I waited for years to give you guys that, and I think it was everything I built up in my head, but so much more because the day was so good. So yeah, I definitely have to pick that. Easily my favorite live reaction. Definitely. What about you?
For me, it was Puma versus Mill at Ultima Lucha 1.
Yeah. You know what? If I had to pick my favorite Ashton live reaction, it would be that one because it felt so good here, and you legitimately come unglued. Like, you walked into that shit.
I kind of created a narrative within that match where Puma has 9 lives, and then when he lost his last life, as far as my headcanon goes, and still kicked out, I died.
Yeah. So good.
All right, that was a quicker one. We need to get more quick ones. Next question from DBK. Why does the IWC think Charlotte is such a great wrestler / heel / talker?
Different strokes for different folks. It's pretty much how I would answer that.
Oh, you know? My sweet, sweet, naive child. If only you knew.
Because, I mean, you know, I don't like her. I know you don't like her, but people do like her, and I don't bemoan them. It's just not for me. And that's really what it comes down to. Not for me.
Let me explain, in my opinion. This is exclusively the opinion of Ashton. I'm not putting this on John. I'm not trying to say that this is the ultimate truth. I'm just saying this is my truth. In my opinion, the reason that Charlotte is as well liked among the internet wrestling community as she is for multiple reasons. First of all, there are a lot of guys that just like her because they like that she has nice big boobs, and they're a big fan of that. I'm not joking. I wish that there were more people that were less shallow, but at the end of the day, She is a tall, skinny blonde with big tits, and that's going to be enough to get a lot of guys' rocks off. But then number 2, for the people that look past just the appearance, she is a legacy, so people will naturally, internally, without even trying to or thinking about it, give her more credit than she really deserves because, well, obviously she's good at this. She's Ric Flair's daughter. Number 3, why do people think that she's a good wrestler? Because she's athletic. That's literally all it is. People think that because she's athletic and because she can do a moonsault and it looks pretty, that makes her a good wrestler. Oh, and also because she has a submission, and a lot of internet wrestling marks are marks for submission wrestling, even though half the time her submissions don't actually make sense, and maybe we'll work on your leg for the entire match and you'll still lock in the figure 8 with no problem. The fact that she uses a submission finish, a lot of people mark out for that because of her father again. And then why do people think she's a great talker? Because she legitimately gets given some of the best content from a promo standpoint of anybody on the roster. She is constantly given golden heeled material on promos from the writers that she then delivers extremely poorly, in my opinion. And that's where my opinion on Charlotte and a lot of other people's opinions on Charlotte diverge, because they see the content and they think, oh, wow, she cuts such good heel promos. But what I see is a bunch of writers giving her good material and her still managing to make it look worse than it should because of her piss poor delivery. As far as why people think that Charlotte is a good heel, it's because people boo her. Why do people boo her? In my opinion, because she's so bad at her job. It's Eva Marie heat, in my opinion. So there are your answers, DBK. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight as far as what I think is the truth. And I think John already kind of tried to do his best to dodge this question. So if you want, brother, we can move on.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Up next, we had our one question from Deshaun Carpenter. He said he understands that we are both big Lucha Underground fans. What is it that they do so well that others can learn from? And since you went first last time, I'll take this one. The easiest way to describe what Lucha Underground does so well that everyone else can learn from, treating professional wrestling like a television show instead of treating it like a fake sport. And I say fake sport because if you look at WWE, no real sports have the really shoddy, poorly shot interview style that the WWE has. So the WWE clearly isn't trying to legitimately make what they do look like a real sport. They're actually going out of their way to say, hey guys, this is a fake sport. Now, New Japan, on the other hand, they actually try to make you believe this is a real sport. And I admire their attempt at that, and I appreciate that, and I can suspend my disbelief because of how committed they are to that. So, New Japan, I give them credit. But Lucha Underground is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They say, we know that you guys know that this isn't a real sport. We know that you guys know that this isn't a real athletic competition, and we know that all you guys really want from this is to be entertained, and we know that you're willing to suspend your disbelief to do that. So if you just suspend your disbelief a little more than you might be used to from wrestling, we're about to take you on a freaking ride. And they do, and it's brilliant.
You gave the best answer possible. No way I'm going to top that, but I'm going to throw my 2 cents in there anyway.
Please do. I know I gave a really, really strong answer, but I still want to hear from you, brother.
To me, I love the brass balls that this company has in Lucha Underground and the El Rey Network, and I commend the El Rey Network for standing by Lucha Underground and just having confidence in them. One thing that disappoints me about Raw, because I remember when they first announced, like, oh, we're going to go 3 hours, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Like, I was one of the few, like, a lot of people were bemoaning it, and yet I'm the guy with the pail filling it up with the water, trying to get it out of the ship. Like, no, guys, it could still run, because I thought, wow, you can really maximize your time. You could develop undercard guys, and then you can move undercard guys. Like, say if they dominated the first hour, you can move them to the second hour. So pretty much through your television show, create main eventers like in real time. Like, we'll watch it happen every week if you just give them time. Never did it. Still haven't done it all these years later. To me, Lucha Underground gets an hour And they do a roster rotation, yes, but I feel like everybody gets something. That's not to say that there still aren't hierarchies. Of course, you're going to have your jobbers or your undercarders or your main eventers, but all of them in their own way feel important. Case in point, an amazing undercard feud, Famous B versus Masquerita Sagrada. So good. Legitimately comedic, legitimately entertaining, and you took a guy like Famous B, who in season 1 was a jobber for all intents and purposes, and now he's this great manager character that worked a wonderful program with Masquerita, who is a comedy wrestler, again, for all intents and purposes, and they go out and they make magic together. This is because Lucha Underground really does understand the adage, a place for everything, everything in its place. Doesn't mean we can't do well, though, with those things in its place. I think the pacing of this show is fantastic. I've always said about the cinematics, I think it's ahead of its time. And I guarantee, you know what's going to really sicken me is in 5 or however many years when WWE adopts it, because I do believe one day they'll adopt it. Either they'll do it on one of their main shows, or they'll create a new show that adopts the techniques that you're seeing Lucha Underground use now, and they're going to act like they're at the fucking forefront of something when Lucha Underground's already been doing it for this long. Hell, you're already seeing kind of a similar trend with Impact Wrestling, and I know that's pissed you off too with the Broken Hardy shit. So yeah, I think they're very innovative. And, you know, I think the best thing that they do, again, because I knew I wasn't going to top Ashton's answer, and he checked all the primary boxes, but another thing I would add that's the biggest thing, none of it is contrived. They let things happen. Not only do they openly acknowledge, to Ashton's point, that this is a television show, it's the best kind of television there is. It's television that they don't try and manipulate. They take the crowd reaction in, but they keep going on with their narrative. So Pentagon, just because he's starting to get cheered doesn't mean he's going to have a change of heart and be like, you know, maybe I shouldn't break arms. Maybe I should use these arms instead to go to an animal shelter or feed the homeless. Nah, fuck that. I'm still going to break these arms anyway. You know, it doesn't matter if they cheer or boo people. The motivations are motivations. They have a narrative, and they're going to tell it. Now, does the narrative always land? Honestly, I'd say yeah right now. I really can't even say like, oh no, because even at times when I'm like, oh, this story seems weak, when it finishes, it's great. Take, for example, Sexy Star when she won Gift of the Gods. Do you remember that episode? You and I were talking for like a good 10, 15 minutes. Oh, how is she going to beat Matanza? How is any of that going to happen? Because Matanza was such a monster. And then you realize, well, she never even had to beat Matanza. She had to beat Mil Muertes, and the way she did it, she pushed him through a table, did a double stomp for good measure, and she won it, and then she lost it a week later to a very opportunistic Johnny Mundo. So all that hand-wringing we were doing, like, oh, is Matanza's credibility going to take a hit, never even became an issue as far as Sexy Star was concerned. They just, they get it.
Sexy Star story was the last time that I decided that I was going to just stop questioning Lucha Underground. Because
exactly, and I was the same way.
For the longest time, I was... at the very beginning, there were always a lot of questions like, oh, what if they do this? And no, they might do that. And oh, I don't know if they're going to be able to do this right. And every time I was stifled. I was, in your words, John, I was quelled. And
yeah.
When we got to the Sexy Star story, I basically, that was kind of like my last-ditch effort. Like, oh, there's no way they can do this and make it look credible and not make me roll my eyes. But they did. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and that was when I kind of like raised my hands up, and it was like a Jesus take the wheel moment, but it was Lucha Underground writers, take the wheel. I'm done trying to doubt you and question you. I know that you are going to do me well.
I just love that they give a shit about these people. Like, you take a look right at a guy like Killshot, who's Shane Strickland on the independent scene. Now, I love me some Shane Strickland. I think he's a great dude. I've been hearing he's been tearing it up. But let's be real here. I bet you, like, most of the stuff, most of the appeal to those other indie promotions is, oh, he can do really cool stuff. And he can. He can do really cool shit. With Lucha Underground, though, they realize that's insufficient. So what do? They give him the backstory of a goddamn soldier. And the really crazy thing is, you hear that and you think in this particular climate, like, oh, man, that's got to be hokey as shit, isn't it? They've got to really ham it up. No. It's so grounded and so emotionally palpable that I actually felt for him when his dog tags were taken. And I'm a guy that I revel in the idea of Zach Gowen getting thrown down a flight of steps. So that's really saying something. Yeah, this show is just so good. They get it, man. They get that if you're going to be fantastical, go all the way. And they have fucking time travelers on their show. And that's that's the one word I'd use for Lucha Underground. And then I'm going to shut up here so we can move on. It's commitment. You know, they really commit to the ideas they have on paper. I feel like with WWE, they half-ass a lot of stuff, so you get a half-ass end result. But when they say, no, pro wrestling is a television show, they mean we're going to use the medium of television to just expand our imaginations as fucking wide as we can go. And we have created a beautiful universe as a result in the Lucha.
And you know what? Lucha Underground is another one of those promotions, like I was saying earlier about progress, because, like, we've got people talking about WCPW in chat. Again, WCPW aren't really doing anything to contribute to the wrestling business. They're throwing money at people so that they can use their name on a poster to sell tickets and then putting on solid shows in people's opinions. I'm not one of the people that enjoys their shows, but there are people that really love their shows. And hey, more power to you. But at the end of the day, Lucha Underground is taking people who were unknowns before Lucha Underground and turning them not only into knowns, but into stars. And no, I'm not talking about like Ricochet or, you know, Mil Muertes, who was known before as, what was he in frickin' TNA, John?
Who in TNA now?
Mil Muertes when he was in TNA.
Oh, Judas Macias.
Judas Macias, yeah. But we're talking about like Shane Strickland. Shane Strickland was in CZW before Lucha Underground. And yeah, if you were a really hardcore fan and really in the know, you might have known about him. But now Lucha Underground has turned the Killshot character into a draw. You can talk about freaking Pentagon Jr. Before Lucha Underground. Pentagon Jr. was considered a nobody. He was like Triple H and AAA brass thought he sucked. They didn't see anything in him whatsoever. So, like, yeah, when he shows up in Lucha Underground, they start giving him a little bit of a push, and all of a sudden he takes over the friggin' world, and now Cero Miedo gets chanted at, like, NXT and WWE shows. It's that big. Another one, Drago. Drago is another guy like Pentagon that AAA officials thought sucked. And now, all of a sudden, in Lucha Underground, they treat him as a literal dragon. We take it seriously. They ask us to suspend our disbelief, and that's all we ever want to do with wrestling anyway, so we're perfectly willing to do it. And he's over as all hell and getting booked on, like, PWG and stuff like that. So, you know, Lucha Underground takes people who were names and turns them into stars, and takes people who were nobodies and turns them into somebodies and potentially also stars. So that's the big difference to me between like a Lucha Underground and like a WCPW. And to me, WCPW doesn't even compete. Like WCPW is like a sort of a super indie show where they just bring in people with names to make money off of them. Whereas Lucha Underground is building a universe, and in the process, they are creating stars.
To me, WCPW is the reason TNA can sleep at night, but I digress. You know, it's funny because I use the word commitment. That's the same reason I love New Japan, because you made a great point about New Japan. Like, they will go all out, right, and presenting that it's as real as possible. And I love that commitment, because seeing the strong style matches and people like working stiff, and my God, again, Minoru Suzuki, who I've just fallen in love with, seeing him just bend and contort limbs, like, it's good shit. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, I love the fantastical stuff. I think that's my problem with WWE. I don't really know if it really commits to any one thing. I think it's like a really solid middle ground. And by solid, I mean like NXT can be good, SmackDown can be good, and Raw, I'm sorry, I just really haven't liked in a while. I'm waiting for Raw to pick up again and for me to like it. It's just not clicking for me right now. SmackDown is, though. But yeah, Lucha Underground to me is king.
You did really enjoy the Festival of Friendship.
I did. I did. Yeah, there you
go. There's the Raw segment. All right, up next, we've got 6 questions left, people. We're in the home stretch. 3 from Ben Jr. and 3 from Alex Foster. First question from Ben Jr. The best wrestler from the 4 Horsewomen, and rank them from worst to best. So these are questions for both of us. I went first for the last one, so I'll let you go first for this one. Who, in your opinion, are the best and worst horsewomen? Name them from worst to best, in your opinion.
Okay, I would go. Damn. You know what? In all honesty, I would go Charlotte, Bailey, Sasha, Becky. That'd be my rank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I would go. Let's see. I'll say heel Charlotte, then face Charlotte, then Bailey because she's never been a heel, then I'm thinking face Sasha. Actually, we'll do this: heel Charlotte, face Sasha, Bailey, heel Becky, face Becky, heel Sasha.
Wow, yeah, see, and if I was to do all those divisions, I think my list would be radically different as well. But I think I'll just keep it the cleaner version like that.
The only
Yeah,
reason I do that is because, like, if we're just talking about, like, as an overall general performer, yes, I would have, it would be the same as yours. It would be Charlotte, Bailey, Sasha,
Becky.
God, freaking names. But to me, if you look at all four of their careers, the best run that any of the four of them has ever had was Sasha's heel NXT run. Like, I love Becky Lynch right now, but even now, I don't think that Becky Lynch's best work is better than Sasha's heel work in NXT.
Right. Because, yeah, heel Sasha, to me, if we were going the heel-face dynamics, honestly, I'd put heel Becky at the bottom. I really didn't care for her heel work on NXT at all.
See, I dug her, though. I didn't hate her, and to me, like, she's still, as far as in-ring goes, she's the best of the four.
Right. In fact, if I'm really being truthful, I would actually put heel Charlotte, NXT specifically, above heel Becky, because I just enjoyed heel Charlotte more on NXT. Heel Sasha, though, again, was king, and Bailey was just fantastic. So Bailey, as far as, like, just face an NXT run, I might make her number one, because her story had such a satisfying ending. As far as, like...
We're talking performer.
Beg pardon?
I said that story, though, we're talking performer.
Right. Well, I mean, performer... Yeah, see, performer, then I really do like... Because, again, I do think Becky's, like, the best in-ring worker, but the closest to that, again, would be heel Sasha, because I felt like she was a really great performer, too, just, you know, or on the mic and everything. But, yeah, that's really where I fall with everything. So, if you have anything to add, we can move on.
No, I'm not going to add anything. Up next, second question from Ben Jr. Which match should main event WrestleMania? The Wyatt Triple Threat or Goldberg Brock? And, of course, who goes over? I'll take this one first, I guess. It's kind of an unfair question because Goldberg Brock is going to be for the Universal title, and WWE is going to see that as the main event. And obviously, because I'm not a big fan of old pieces of shit taking the spots away from people who are on the roster and traveling with the roster and working 300 shows a year, I don't like the idea of the old shits getting the main event. So I would obviously put the Wyatt Triple Threat there. But the reason we don't make videos like that, the reason that we aren't like making a video like, oh, hey guys, the Wyatt Triple Threat should totally main event WrestleMania, is because it's obvious. And we're not adding anything to this discussion, and we're not saying anything that nobody said before. So to me, like, when we make videos, we're trying to make points that not necessarily everybody has made already, and we're trying to maybe point out you that not everybody might see. So Goldberg Lesnar is going to main event over the Triple Threat. I personally would obviously prefer the Wyatt Triple Threat main eventing, just because that would be a great moment for three younger guys. Like, I think the oldest person in that match is Orton at like 36, and that's still relatively young. So, but yeah, to me, I just, it really comes down to, like, you know, are you an internet wrestling fan? If yes, then you're going to say the Wyatt Triple Threat. If no, then Goldberg Brock.
Right. To me, you know, Cliff and the infinite wisdom of his shoulder really said it best. You know, Goldberg Lesnar's the draw, and that really is what it comes down to. I think is kind of your booking philosophy. If you want the immediate cash grab and you want the match that really kind of embodies what you try and make people believe WrestleMania is, then you obviously go Goldberg Lesnar. However, if you're more like me and you feel like long term, I want people to watch tomorrow and the week after that and the week after that, so I want to make a long term investment, then you have the triple threat main event, because that's going to be what they remember. That's going to be what sticks out. And then that's something that you can thread through on SmackDown, the next 2 nights. And then, build on those stories week after week, because then Goldberg and Lesnar, they're piecing out. It's whatever. So, yeah, if I want the cash grab, if I really want something to embody Mania, definitely Lesnar Goldberg. But if I'm thinking about the future and I want people to see the future of the product and what the product is right now at its best, definitely that triple threat. So that's where I am with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's a different perspective.
Right. So what's our next question?
Next question, third and final question from Ben Jr. What career did you guys want to pursue as kids and why?
Oh, as a kid, I wanted to be an inventor. Like, the first bit of books that I would read, like everybody else would be reading Nancy Drew or the Hardy Boys or just some kind of fictional book, I would be getting books on, like, Michael Faraday, Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, fuck you, Edison, Nikola Tesla for the win. But I'd be getting books on all those guys, and I would just be enthralled by them, and I'm like, I want to do this. So I was very scientifically inclined as a kid. Yeah, that was definitely my dream job early on. Of course, obviously, I've shifted from that point. But yeah, that was all I was about as a kid.
Yeah. So I was all over the place growing up. I never really figured out what I wanted to do, and to this day, I don't really know what I want to do when I grow up, which I still probably haven't done yet. When I was really, really young, I always had a pretty strong interest in dinosaurs, so I guess you could say archaeologist there. When I was in like my late single digit to like preteen ages, for some reason I wanted to be a lawyer. I guess it was just for the money, because I figured I wanted to be a professional arguer and make a lot of money doing it. When I got to like late middle school, early high school, I think I wanted to be an architect because I loved drawing and I loved math, and I thought architecture was a way to blend those two together. And then towards the tail end of my high school run, and obviously for the first like chunk of my college career, which is what I went to college for, I wanted to be a web designer. And then about halfway into college, when I realized that web design wasn't for me, I just didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. And that's kind of where I've been ever since. Although now I'm kind of leaning towards analytics in some shape or form. I think that it's called data science, which is probably what I would say. But even then, I don't know if I would want to make a career out of it. Or if it's just something I want to do for fun, and maybe like I sell an algorithm for a nice chunk of money somewhere down the line. I don't know.
Right. All right. So, who's next, or what's next?
Well, we're on our closing stretch. Up next, I would like to bring up Alex Foster, because he's lovely and always gets in right at the end and asks some fun questions. First question from Alex. This is a weird one. If you guys went to the doctor's office and instead of the doctor that you're used to seeing, it ended up being Dr. Krieger from Archer, what would you do? And I think I answered this to John when we first saw this question. I would run.
Yeah. For me, and it's a shame that he's not here, because I was hoping he'd be here to see this. In fact, you know what? No, I was originally going to take a pot shot at him, but I think I'm going to take a pot shot at James instead, because I relish any opportunity I get to do that. I'd have Krieger do an operation on my penis. I'd have him improve it, make it robotic, and maybe some like chemical enhancements, do some crazy shit. And then I would slap James with my work. So there you go, Kid Coed. I used your term. I would have.
He's not even in chat. You wasted a reference.
I'd use my technologically advanced penis for evil, and then me and Krieger would high five, and I would totally buy that man a beer. Yeah, be a great time.
Oh my god.
Next question.
I feel like Leslie Mann's character in Big Daddy. We wasted the good surprise on you.
Uh,
You wasted the Kid Coheed reference when he's not even in chat.
well, that's his own fault. Where are you? How dare you have a life outside of this? No, he's
Oh
still
my
good though.
god.
All
All
right.
right. Second question from Alex Foster. So far, what are your thoughts on Dragon Ball Super?
It's finally starting to pick up for me. Like I've been enjoying it, but I've been waiting for it to get a little bit more intense, a little bit more serious. And yeah, this past episode was really good. Also, doesn't hurt that my favorite character in Vegeta got the shine there. So yeah, I'm enjoying it though. I'm thinking it's really good, and I'm thinking it'll show a lot of promise when you really get deep into this new world with all the new characters and things going on. But yeah, for now, definitely an enjoyable ride.
Oh, I gotta tell you, man, it's getting dragged out way too much for me. I guess that's just because I'm so used to binge watching everything that, like, having to wait a whole week for a new episode to come out is like death to me. Especially when, like, they're literally just going over a storyline that was done in a 90-minute movie,
Yeah.
and they're taking like 10 plus episodes to cover this arc when it was done in 90 minutes already, and they really aren't changing anything about it.
Well, I mean, Alex Foster says, because he's been keeping up with the sub, that the wait is worth it. And see, that's what I'm counting on. Like, to me,
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of a slow and plodding
Yeah,
beginning.
well, yeah, because like we've got Beerus, and once we get through the Beerus stuff and they kind of settle their differences, I think there's going to be another arc that we're going to actually be able to get into because it's not going to be from a movie. But then we're going to get right back into Golden Frieza, and that's from the most recent movie that came out. So again, like, oh boy, more movie stuff. So yeah, like I'm looking forward to the Universe Survival arc, and I'm looking forward to the Future Trunks arc because I haven't seen anything from that yet. But this Beerus stuff, the God of Destruction, and then the Golden Frieza stuff is just like, oh, we've seen this already. Can we please move on?
And see, I'll at least be excited for Golden Frieza, especially if they get the same voice actor that's done Frieza over the years, because I always thought that was a great villain in the original show. So even if they're just making, like, just stopping by and being like, hey, I'm gold now, all this stuff, I can have fun with that. If for no other reason, like those nostalgia
Hey, y'all, I'm gold now. What you gonna do about it?
Exactly. I'm just gonna finish the genocide I started now in gold. Yeah. So, yeah, it should be fun.
I guess
But
y'all didn't realize this, but I never trained before in my life, but I spent the last 6 months training. Y'all are screwed.
oh, little Gideon Frieza, you're just too much.
Dude, that's exactly who I think I was channeling. Good call.
You're damn right you are. But yeah, it's been good so far. But what's Alex Foster's last question?
What is your favorite Fandango / Johnny Curtis moment?
Yeah, you forgot to mention that he said this is primarily for you. But oh, John, you could answer if you want, bitch. But no. By all means, Ashton, tell him what your favorite Fandango moment is.
For me, it's a two-way tie.
Okay.
Are you okay? I feel like I literally heard you crying over there.
No. I don't cry. You can continue.
Why the sniff, John?
No reason.
So, oh my god. The two that I can think of, the first one is when he was being interviewed, and it was him and Layla, and I think Renee was the interviewer, and there was like a double dosage of amazingness here. The first one was when she brought up something about him losing, and he was like, what are you talking about? You're not even a real journalism, are you? And then there was another moment in that same interview when she asked about Layla, and he just goes, he just takes a deep breath, like, she smells like cinnamon toast crunch. That was amazing. But the all-time greatest Johnny Curtis moment was when he and, at the time, Maxine, now known as Katrina, were a de facto couple, even though they kind of hated each other. You could call them a de facto couple. They were kind of together, but it was really just because Maxine wanted to use him to get to Regal so that she could get a little bit of that GM power, because she was just basically a gold digger in NXT. And you know, she basically told Johnny Curtis, like, you need to chill. I'm gonna go find Regal and see if I can get a spot out there with him on commentary. And she did. But at the same time, Johnny Curtis was backstage chilling, and like Alicia Fox walks up, and Fox is like, you know, just walking by, and Johnny Curtis goes, "Hey there, Foxy lady," and she goes, literally hisses at him and continues walking. And then, like, as she's walking away, Johnny Curtis stares at this chloroform rag that he has in his hand, like he's really thinking about it with Alicia Fox. But then Matt Striker walks by and he chloroforms him and puts him in a trunk and sits on it. And then when Maxine gets back, she's all like, "Oh yeah, what happened? Did anything happen?" And he's just like, "No, what are you talking about? Why are you being so weird?" And then she goes, "You have someone in the trunk, don't you?" And he goes, No, what? You're weird. No, I'm not weird. You're weird. And then she goes, "Open the trunk," and he does. And Stryker was supposed to be in there, but it was just a ransom note that said, "We found Stryker," and then it was like, "Meet us in the somewhere or another, and you'll be able to get him back." And it was just that. But then, like, the whole thing was like, why did she? There was this moment in their exchange where she was like, "Why do you have chloroform?" And he goes, "Why don't I have chloroform?" And then, like, later on, there was a scene where they were walking down the hallway, and he, like, they're trying to find whoever it was that kidnapped Matt Striker's lifeless or at least unconscious body. And at one point, Justin Gabriel walks up on them, like, from the right. And rather than being a normal human being and turning towards him and confronting him and talking to him, Johnny Curtis literally just points at his face as he walks towards him. And, like, the finger is just in between the eyes of Justin Gabriel as he's walking towards them. And then he goes, "This guy knows what happened." And so, like, then Maxine gets all up in his face, and she's just like, "No, what are you talking about?" And, like, he doesn't know. And then they keep walking, and then I think, like, Percy Watson and Alex Riley show up, and there's this great moment because, like, Johnny Curtis is this literal, like, 80s, like, freaking Fonzie type character almost. And he walks around wearing, like, this ring jacket but no shirt underneath. And Alex Riley looks like such a square because, like, he grabs the jacket and tries to close it so that you can't see Johnny Curtis's perfect chest anymore. And he goes, "Put on a t-shirt." And Johnny Curtis just, like, opens it back up and he's like, "Whatever, man." Like, just the coolest guy in class. And then they walk up on it wasn't Percy Watson because Percy Watson was with Titus O'Neil then, but it was Alex Riley and someone else. I don't remember who. But then they do walk up on Titus O'Neil and Percy Watson. And, like, there's this ridiculous moment of, like, borderline racism where they see Titus O'Neil and Percy Watson, and then they, like, Johnny Curtis, like, freaks out and ducks behind, like, a tool storage unit. And he's just like, "No, those guys are scary." And she, like, confronts Titus, and he's, like, playing the role of, like, "Why the hell is my girlfriend crazy, like, boyfriend?" And trying to, like, calm Maxine down, like, "No, these guys didn't do anything wrong," just because it's Titus O'Neil and Percy Watson, and it's, like, two big scary black guys. And then, like, I don't know, like, there's this weird moment where Maxine, like, gets up in Titus's face, and she's just like, "Tell me how much you really don't like me right now," because, like, she's trying to, like, get out of him that he did something that would get Maxine in trouble. And, like, that, just the whole scene and the interactions with Maxine and Johnny Curtis and everyone else that they interacted with, it was brilliant. I freaking love that. And then, like, there was also, like, an era of that season of NXT when they were just handcuffed to each other because I guess William Regal just wanted to punish them. So, like, yeah, that really NXT Redemption Johnny Curtis, when, like, that whole show was just run by Johnny Curtis, Maxine, Derek Bateman, Caitlin, Kurt Hawkins, and frickin' Tyler Rex. Like, those were like the big six on that show at that point. And it was a complete shit show, but Johnny Curtis stole the show every single night, and he was amazing in that role.
Well, I mean, damn, that was as thorough an answer on a Q&A as you're gonna get. You really went up and down the board. Only a few things that I want to note talking about Fandango. Like, I'm loving Breezango right now. I hope one day he comes to Lucha Underground, because I know, like, Katrina's a super serious character and everything, but when you hear, Carly's interview on AfterBuzz, and they actually ask her about Johnny, like, I think she loved working with him, and she even said flat out, like, Johnny can do anything. Like, he's so good. So I'd love to see those two work together again. I think, like, they probably have a friendship, and it's adorable, and that's just what my headcanon says, so screw off. And so, yeah, I'd love to see him in Lucha Underground. As far as, like, my favorite moment, I actually did think of one while you were talking that you didn't pick, because you focused on, like, NXT Johnny Curtis. My favorite Fandango moment, because it's just so quick, but it's so good. I believe it was the 2014 Royal Rumble, because that's when Reigns dominated, and Fandango just clubs El Torito, and he just gets this smirk on his face like he's so proud of himself.
Yes.
Like, I did it, guys! I hit the bull! And then he gets eliminated, like, seconds afterwards. But, like, Johnny Curtis really is that performer that, like, whether he's talking or having to rely on body language, like, he just gets it. And that's why I'm really getting behind Breezango lately, because I don't care if you want to make him a comedy wrestler, if you want to make him a serious wrestler. Like, I think that guy, he is a character performer. At least that's how he strikes me. Like, you give him a character, and he'll put his own unique spin on it, but he'll invest in it 150%. And that's why, like, either do something with Breezango, or please send Fandango somewhere else. I mean, mainly, again, I'd love him to reunite with Carly as Katrina and Lucha Underground, see if they could do anything at all together. I mean, they found a way to make Katrina work with Jeremiah Crane. I'm sure they could find a way to have those two work together again if he was to ever fall in their lap. Because, yeah, the guy's just great. And him just clubbing El Torito, so good. So good. So that's the only moment I'm going to share, because I know it was primarily an Ashton question. But, yeah, that was the contribution I wanted to make. I'm good.
All right, and that was our final question of Q&A. Nothing quite like closing out a Q&A on some Johnny Curtis. I love it. So, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this 3-hour Q&A. It's nice to be back in the saddle again with the long ones. And we hope that we won't have to wait until the last day for Q&A questions next month. So I think what we're going to do, and I don't make me regret this, but I think we're going to raise the cap back up to 4. We're not going to go all the way back up to 5, because that's how you end up with over 70 questions, but we are going to go back up to 4. So if you guys want to ask 4 questions instead of just 3, feel free to do so. And we hope that a bunch of guys, and maybe even some of our female fans, Ella and Jackie, etc., will take advantage of the raised cap. And yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed this Q&A, and hopefully we get an even more stacked Q&A for the next time. John, any last thoughts?
I had so much fun with this, guys, as always. Thank you for coming in the TWitWoW live chat, making it such a lively place. Thank you for your questions. A lot of great questions this month. I always get curious, like, each month as we get, like, deeper into it, what questions are going to be presented to us, and you guys never disappoint. And I'm glad we went a little over 40 this time around. I was getting a little worried, but I think the 4 cap, that'll be the Goldilocks number. I think a lot of people will be satisfied with that number. And yeah, Q&A. This is Q&A number 8, you said, Ashton?
Yes, sir.
We are too shy from double digits, guys. That's crazy, which means Q&A number 9, guys, will be taking place March 31st. So the end of March will be our next Q&A. That's ample time to get your questions in. And as Ashton just said, cap is now 4. The last thing I want to say of any kind of substance is, as soon as this video is done, I'm going to go on my Twitter. I'm going to unpin the tweet for Q&A number 8. I will put the pin tweet up for Q&A number 9. Please tweet at me your questions. And again, always specify if they're just for me, just for Ashton, or both. Of course, if they're just for Ashton, you could just as easily tweet at him at Apon404. And yeah, I'm just going to have a pin tweet up there because I think it makes it easier for everybody. So, Ashton, I'm going to hand it back to you. And yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Well, all of our Twitter information that you were just mentioning is in the description, as well as our Facebook page, which you can like, and our subreddit, which really is just kind of there in case anybody wants to talk to us on there instead of Twitter or Facebook or whatever. I could probably delete the subreddit if I wanted to, but it's still fun to be able to say we have our own subreddit. Make sure to check out Patreon. Guys, we are so close. $31 away. We get 31 more dollars. Literally, like, you could have 4 different people. We have 9 people watching this live right now. If half of you donate $8 to our Patreon, we will be reviewing, and not even reviewing, live reacting to every single episode of SmackDown Live that takes place in the month of March, which would include March 7th, March 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. And then guess what, guys? WrestleMania is the following Sunday. So that's all 4 episodes of SmackDown Live leading up to WrestleMania 33. Is it 33 or 32?
33.
I thought so. So anyway, yeah, every single episode of SmackDown in March, which is also every episode of SmackDown leading up to WrestleMania. If you want live reactions to all those SmackDowns, there's 4 of them in there. Just get us up to the $80 mark on Patreon, and we will be live reacting to those episodes of SmackDown. Otherwise, we do have a request in from Cliff Amal for a WWF 90s pay-per-view, and we will be live reacting to that in March. And that's another thing, guys. If you want, you can request us to live react or review a show, or live react and review a show, and the money that you donate for that request will be counted towards the $80 community goal that we have set for the SmackDown live reaction. So that we really want to get there, and we only have 4 days to do it. We've got to get there by Wednesday, because Wednesday starts the new month, starts the March month. And if you don't get them in by then we're not going to be able to do our live reactions for the March SmackDowns, unfortunately. So other than that, check out the Teespring, buy T-shirts. If you don't want a T-shirt, buy a mug. If you don't want a mug, buy a sticker. And if you're not interested in all that, then just check out the Patreon, because even if you don't want to spend the $6 for a sticker, you can donate $5 to the Patreon, or $3 to the Patreon, or $1 to the Patreon, and it would be very much appreciated as far as your support of TWitWoW. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Q&A. Get your questions in for next month's Q&A, and we will see you all for our Monday Night Raw review this coming Monday, 11:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope everybody enjoyed. Stay tuned.